This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Eighth of a mile to go, Toyota Bluegrass, verifying, is right there to the inside. Tapit Trice is right alongside, past the 16th pole. Tapit Trice puts ahead in front. Tapit Trice wins the Toyota Bluegrass.
Mandarin Hero grinding away at him, and Skinner on the outside. Practical move. Here's Mandarin Hero surging. Practical move. Mandarin Hero. Practical move has won the Run Happy Santa Anita Derby.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Pit Show is now put a nose in front. Dreamlike is still there. Lord Miles up on the outside. They're coming down to the finish. Pit Show, Lord Miles, Pit Show, Lord Miles, Lord Miles. Lord Miles out of huge numbers.
Cat Thief digging in at the rail. Worldly Matter with Jared Bailey. Charismatic trained by Lucas on the outside. Now Lucas running 1-2. Charismatic on the outside. Takes command. On the inside, Cat Thief in the middle of the track. Menifee is flying, but it's Charismatic holding on to win it by a hand.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network, the Equine Forum, all presented by TwinSpires and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch. Happy to have you in the starting gate with me once again this morning, right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country. And yeah, streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you are accessing your podcasts. And so many of you tuning in via podcast now after the live shows, and I certainly appreciate you doing that and happy to have you doing that around the world as we get ready to wind down the road to the Kentucky Derby. And that's a road, at least in terms of the qualifying point system, that began 7 months ago with the Grade 3 Iroquois at Churchill Downs. Now, if you're a breeder or you're a consigner or an owner, that journey began 3 years ago. But the road to the Kentucky Derby comes to an end with the Grade 3 Lexington Stakes just about 72 miles west of the TwinSpires at Keeneland later today. The Lexington has produced two Kentucky Derby winners, Swale in 1984 and Charismatic, you just heard the call from Dave Johnson, Charismatic in 1999, who remains the only horse to win both races. And I would say there's a fair chance of a third Derby winner coming from today's Lexington Stakes. You might say, Baron, the road is done. The field is set. There is nobody coming out of this race that's going to go on to Louisville and even if they do, they're not going to have an impact. It's only 3 weeks away. At least a better chance this year than in most years, in my opinion. If the Steve Asmussen-trained Disarm can run a big race, I think he's a player. Disarm likely doesn't need to win today's Lexington to get into the Derby field, but he probably needs to win today's Lexington to move on to Louisville. He's currently 26th on the Derby points. He's sitting there with 40 points right now, which he earned when finishing second behind Kingsbarns in the Louisiana Derby. The point structure for the Lexington today is 20 points to the winner, 8 for second, 6 for third, then 4 points and 2 points for fourth and fifth, respectively. So anything third or better will give Disarm enough points to get into the body of the Derby field. But I have to think Asmussen and owner Ron Winchell are thinking it's win or bust later today. Because if Disarm can't handle the horses he's going to line up against in the Lexington, I don't think you can expect him to handle the horses he would have to face in 3 weeks. And I'm not knocking the other horses in today's race. That's not a knock against them necessarily. I'm complimenting the horses who have already punched their ticket to the Kentucky Derby that will unquestionably be a much stiffer test for Disarm. So unless he passes today's test with flying colors, I would be very surprised if his connections move on to the first Saturday in May. There are too many other big races up the road to push a horse like Disarm into the Kentucky Derby in 3 weeks if he's not dominant at Keeneland later today. And I don't think that Ron Winchell, Steve Asmussen, they win a lot of big races. I think that in order for this horse to move on, he has to run huge later today. And I mentioned the Grade 3 Iroquois kicking off the road to the Kentucky Derby on September 17th of last year. The winner of that race, Curly Jack, is not going to be in the Kentucky Derby. Neither is the runner-up from that race, Honed. But if you keep going back through the charts of that race and you see some of the other names that were in the Iroquois that day, you do see a couple of Kentucky Derby starters. Jace's Road was third in the Iroquois and is currently in the Derby field right now at number 19. And I'm sure he's cheering against Disarm later today. Because if Disarm gets into the field, if he wins big, goes to the Kentucky Derby, gets into the field, he's going to be above Jace's Road. And that's going to push Jace's Road out of the Derby field, at least for now. We always see horses come out for whatever reason. Sometimes the connections decide the Derby isn't for them, and they decide to wait for the Preakness. That will happen over the next 3 weeks. I can almost guarantee you that. We also see horses come up with a cough, come up with an injury, whatever it might be, and they scratch from the main body of the field. So over the next 3 weeks or so, that field, even as it looks like it's set, is still going to change. And if you're sitting there in the 21st, 22nd, 24th, 25th position, you're not out of it. You're still going to have an opportunity to get into this Derby field. Confidence Game was also in the Iroquois on September 17th. He finished 5th that day. And thanks to his win in the Rebel Stakes at Oaklawn, he has no concerns about being bumped from the main body of the field, no matter what happens later today with Disarm. He's solidly in the number 12 spot. But he hasn't started since the Rebel. That's going to make it a very long and very challenging and somewhat unprecedented 10-week gap coming into the Kentucky Derby for Confidence Game. He worked yesterday at Churchill. He worked a mile yesterday. That also is an unconventional thing to do. We don't see that very often. You're going to hear from his trainer, Keith Desormeaux, who will join me later in the first hour of the show at 8:35 Eastern. Keith will talk about that decision, talk about the things he went through and trying to determine how to get this horse to the Kentucky Derby and how to make sure he's ready to peak on the first Saturday in May. So stay tuned for that at 8:35. And if you're wondering, the two favorites in the Iroquois on September 17th were Echo Again and Damon's Mound, neither of which are in Derby consideration. Damon's Mound, by the way, running in a turf race tomorrow at Keeneland, which once again speaks to the fact of just how challenging and unpredictable it can be to get a horse to the Kentucky Derby. And if you don't believe me, just ask trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. Last Saturday, I'm sure he was not expecting that he would have to book a room in Louisville for Derby week. If he's going to be 100% honest, I don't think he expected Lord Miles to pull off a 59-1 upset in the Wood Memorial. Once again, this is a very unpredictable sport. So think about it. When highly regarded 2-year-olds Echo Again and Damon's Mound were competing as favorites in the Grade 3 Iroquois, Lord Miles hadn't even made it to the races yet. His debut didn't come until November 19th. So he was on nobody's radar. Maybe Saffie Joseph Jr. I don't know if he was on Saffie's radar last week. I'm going to ask him that question. I'll visit with Saffie coming up at 9 o'clock this morning. We'll see what he has to say if he truly was thinking he would have to make reservations for Louisville when he sent Lord Miles up to the Wood Memorial. Another horse who had yet to make his debut when the road to the Kentucky Derby Point Series began on September 17th was Bluegrass Stakes winner Tapit Trice. His first start came on November 9th at Aqueduct. He finished third that day. But I think all that seemed to do was just kind of tick him off and make him mad because he hasn't lost sense. He's a perfect 4 for 4. Owner and breeder Mandy Pope of Whisper Hill Farm is the co-owner of Tapit Trice along with Anthony Beck's Gainesway Stable. She's going to be with me coming up in just a few minutes at 8:15 Eastern. So it's a really busy show. And then I'm going to dive into a couple of other things outside of the Derby Trail for you here this morning. So here's what's coming up. So you got Mandy Pope at 8:15, just after my first commercial break. Keith Desormeaux, 8:35. Saffie Joseph Jr., 9 o'clock. 9:20, Unsung Heroes, presented by Woodbine Entertainment. I welcome Sovereign Award-winning groom Amber Hutchinson to the program. Yeah, the Sovereign Awards, the equivalent to the Eclipse Awards here in the U.S., the Sovereign Awards in Canada do award a Groom of the Year, and this time there was 2. You'll hear more about that later. But they do give a Sovereign Award for the Groom of the Year, which I think is really cool. And I would like to see the Eclipse Awards add a category to recognize those unsung heroes who work on the backstretch and work tirelessly to make our game a success. Without them, we don't have a sport. So Amber Hutchinson going to be my unsung hero this week after she received that Eclipse or the Sovereign Award on Thursday night. Sheldon Russell, journeyman jockey, returned to the winner's circle on Thursday to cap off his latest comeback from injury. He's had to battle through a lot of things the past couple of years. He's going to join me coming up at 9:40 Eastern Time. And he'll also talk about today's Federico Tessio, in which he gets a leg up from his wife, Brittany Russell, aboard Prince of Jericho. And that race offering an automatic bid to the Preakness. Win today, see you in May, is what they say with the Federico Tessio winner. TwinSpires Triple Play comes up at 10 o'clock Eastern. Joe Kristufek going to be here to give you 3 races you can keep an eye on later today. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. And at 10:30, we wrap it all up with I Ask, They Answer, trainer Dale Romans, turf rider Tim Wilkin. Lots of things to talk about, including that Derby point system. Is it time to overhaul the whole thing? I'm going to ask them that question. You'll find out why as we move throughout the program here today. Is it time to overhaul the entire system, throw it all out the window, start from scratch? Going to be interesting to hear their thoughts when we get to that segment at 10:30. So a lot of things to get to. Busy show. Here's the poll question before I go to break. The poll question, who's your pick to win the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland later today? Give you First Mission, Disarm, Arabian Lion, or Other. And if you choose Other, comment, let me know which horse you think is going to win that race other than those top 3. First Mission, Disarm, Arabian Lion, or Other. Who is your pick to win today's Lexington Stakes at Keeneland? Go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook or at HRRN on Twitter to weigh in and cast your vote, and I'll update those throughout the day. If you don't do social media, you can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know who you think is going to win the Lexington Stakes. Does Disarm punch his ticket to the Kentucky Derby, or does somebody else deny him that opportunity later today? Mandy Pope comes up next, looking back on Tapit Trice and her stellar career in this business. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
It's that time of year again. The Keeneland Spring Meet is back. Make sure to pre-purchase tickets to join your friends and family for world-class racing at Keeneland. Gates open at 11. First post at 1 o'clock. Visit Keeneland.com for a full schedule of races and events. And be sure to download the Keeneland Race Day app before you go. See you there.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all number one in their category. Point of entry, the number one stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the number one second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the number one stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red win his second Highlander in a row.
And Silent Name, the number one stallion by percentage of black type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front. Admiralty Pier out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
Racing at Gulfstream.
There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet, with live racing Thursday through Sunday and simulcast every day. It's spring season in South Florida and time to witness exceptional racing. Watch the action from Carousel Club or feast in 10 Palms with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, visit GulfstreamPark.com. That's GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Around the far turn, inside 3 furlongs from home, Luis Saez nursing the speed of Charge It. He travels well at this stage. He's at the 5/16 on top by 2. Touch Code driven second toward the outside. Enough already. Now into third, dropping back is Grand Lusso. Benny the Books had a rough run of it. He looks for some place to go as they straighten for home. Charge It's on his way home to a very easy maiden victory. He's an eighth of a mile from home, and he can take a knee and run out the clock. Charge It by as much as he wants while never out of second gear. Enough already, driven up on the outside to dead second behind Charge It, who's a talented winner. He won by 6. Second Enough already. Third was Touch Code, and Logico got fourth in 1:35 and 2.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you as always on this Saturday morning. That was Pete Aiello with an entertaining call to Charge It's maiden win at Gulfstream February 12th of last year. It occurred in the 9th race on the program that day, and immediately after that race, it created a buzz about Charge It as a top Kentucky Derby prospect, even though he was just breaking his maiden on February 12th. And as we know, he would get to the Kentucky Derby last year for owner and breeder Mandy Pope, and it was a special moment for her. She has had many of those in the business since she got into the game more than 30 years ago, and she joins me now here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mandy, appreciate the visit here this morning. Thanks for taking the time.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
You know, Charge It was so special last year, and then what do you do for an encore? You follow it up with Tapit Trice, who comes back for you in the Bluegrass Stakes last weekend, wins that race, and now he's heading back to Louisville. What a ride, huh?
It absolutely is. It's amazing. Yes, 2 years in a row. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's spectacular. You've certainly come a long way since Blue Whisper.
Yes, needless to say, it's been a long journey with all the ups and downs, and this is certainly on top of the ladder.
Yeah, Blue Whisper, a horse that you purchased as a high school student in 1980, your first horse ever. Is that when you started to fall in love with the game, or were you already in love with horses even before you got to high school?
Actually, that's not totally correct. It was my first horse, but I had ponies.
Oh, good.
Yes. So I started riding when I was like 4 years old. And I had ponies, and I was very small and short, so I showed Pony Hunters, and I went from the ponies to amateur owner, which is when I had Blue Whisper.
And
it was
for
a thoroughbred, 16 3-hands, yes.
Wow. And for you, Mandy, it has always been about the horse first.
Absolutely. Yes,
it continues to be that way.
It absolutely does, and that's what keeps our program on the right track for hopefully great successes that's well deserved and earned by the horses as well as the great group of people I have working for me.
I want to talk more about that team that you're surrounded by, and you've put together a wonderful team, and it's obviously paying off with all the success you've had. We'll do that in a minute, but let's go back to Tapit Trice for just a moment, because he was so game last week, and his Tampa Bay Derby before that was an easy win. The waters got a bit deeper in the Bluegrass Stakes. He proved that he belonged. Take me back to last Saturday, and just put me there with you watching that race. What was it like?
Well, the most encouraging thing with that race is he broke better and got himself into the race a lot sooner than he had in the past. And he really needed to do that in order to prove that he deserved to go to the Derby, because he can't break last behind a field of 19 other horses.
Yeah, and you're letting the horse take you there. I love that. It's not as if you're saying, hey, if he didn't run well in the Bluegrass, we're still going. You're letting the horse take you there.
Absolutely. And Todd Pletcher's and his group worked really hard with him to improve how he breaks. He's never going to be a quick breaker and be in the top flight, but at least he hopefully will not be the last one.
I talked with Todd on this show the morning of the Tampa Bay Derby, and we talked in depth about Tapit Trice, and he said, he has that look, to him anyway, as a Hall of Fame trainer, he has the look of a horse that wants to run all day, and he even mentioned the race Belmont Stakes with this horse, thinking he's his Belmont horse. Is it possible 1.25 miles on the first Saturday in May might be too short for Tapit Trice?
I don't think so. I think he proved that in the Bluegrass, that he can. He doesn't have to go that far to win. So he's so competitive that once he gets in there, he's going to keep grinding it out till he wins.
Mandy, you purchased Tapit Trice for $1.3 million as a yearling. So obviously he spoke to you. There was something about him that spoke to you. Tell me the story of Tapit Trice and what you remember about seeing him as a baby.
Well, he was a yearling, so depending on your definition of baby, because I also have real babies. But anyway, he was just a gorgeous individual and well-behaved, which is always important to us when we're looking to buy horses. And I love Tapit, and Todd Cost and I just fell in love with him. And he was our top pick of the colts, and we don't buy a whole bunch of horses. We only buy a few. So I have to be very selective on which ones I really want, and he was on the top of our list.
And I can certainly see why, and you're being rewarded for that faith. And your faith in Tapit has led you to great heights as well. Why Tapit? Why was that the horse you gravitated toward?
I think because he also was a hard worker. In the breeding shed, he worked his way up from, just an average horse up to being the top stallion in the country. And he did that because he can breed different types of horses. They can be sprinters, they can be distance horses, they can be dirt, they can be turf. He's average size, so he's not going to really interfere with your mare when you're looking at breeding, because some mares you have to be careful. They don't want to breed too big or too little. So he just fits a great number of mares. And anyway, in my opinion, so he was easy to breed to. And also, his stud fee started out a little lower and then worked its way up, which is what he earned his way there the hard way. And I just have a great deal of respect for them, and we've had good luck with them. And thank goodness he's also becoming a wonderful broodmare sire. because I have a field of gray Tapit mares.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of time looking at the pedigrees and at the sales, and you've had so much success in this game, Mandy, and there are a lot of people who would love to emulate the success that you've had. How do you describe your approach and your philosophy to the business?
My approach is to go with quality. I think in the end, quality is going to pay off, but it's a very expensive way to do business. But in the end, I think that's how you have to go about it to stay in this for a long time and to be able to have more consistency at the upper end of the racing spectrum.
Breed the best to the best, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then hope for the best.
And then hope, well, no, you pray for the best.
Mandy Pope of Whisper Hill Farm with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Tapit Trice getting ready to take her back to the Kentucky Derby. Your third Derby appearance, right? If I'm not mistaken, Mandy,
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, yes.
My Loot, the first one, then last year Charge It, and now Tapit Trice, hoping to get you back there again one more time. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
It will. Well, it will be awesome to be there again, and we're making all our plans, so we're going. As long as Tapit Trice says we're going.
Yeah, as long as he says we're going. When I called you and asked you to join me here on the program, you were actually on the other line with trainer Todd Pletcher, and I'm always curious. Here's Todd, Hall of Fame trainer. He's the one in the spotlight getting this horse to the Kentucky Derby, but you're the owner. You're writing the checks. What are some of those the conversations like? Do you just sit in the background and let Todd kind of steer the ship, or how does this work?
I pretty much do that, and actually most of the conversations involve Todd Pletcher and Todd Quast and me. So I'm usually sitting with Todd Quast, and he's very influential and helpful with all those discussions.
Well, you have a great team surrounding you. We touched on that just a few minutes ago as we were getting started with the conversation. Tell me about the people that you surrounded yourself with, Mandy, that have helped you have this success.
Obviously, Todd Quast has been invaluable to the program, especially since we have bought our own train. And I say ours because I don't consider any of this mine or it's an ours for the whole farm and the whole crew. So when we went out and bought the training center, I believe around 2019, and I think that's been a major improvement to our success, since we can now train the horses the way we want. Todd Quast was a fabulous trainer at Goldmark, but he had a lot of horses. So when we did this, we take on some clients, but most of them are just our horses, and we have more time to spend with each horse, and I think that has been a huge contributor to the success that we're having.
Mandy, what's been your proudest moment in the sport to date?
Probably last year, right before the Derby went off, when we were in the owner's suite there at the Derby, who did a great job for us, and had my family and friends there. That was probably the proudest moment, most exciting moment that I've had, and we're going to do it all again.
Yeah, how many folks do you think you'll have with you this time?
I think we've counted like 28 for us, and then we have Gainesway, of course, who's a big part of this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to have another 20 or so people there. So it's going to be a huge effort, and I'm so proud to be a partner with Anthony Beck and Gainesway and Brian Graves. They have been a huge part of this ride with Tapit Trice.
All right, Mandy, complete this sentence for me before I let you go. To win the Kentucky Derby with Tapit Trice would be?
A good break.
A good break?
A good break for the horse to break from the gate.
Okay. How about the moment? How about the moment for you? How about the moment for you? He crosses the finish line first. He's coming back. He's draped in the garland of roses. What would that moment be like for Mandy Pope?
It will be absolutely unforgettable, and I'll be so excited and so thrilled that I'm already, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. That winning the Bluegrass was absolutely wonderful. And I was so excited and so thrilled that I ended up on Sunday, I was not feeling good at all. Because I had wasted all my emotional and physical energy being so excited on Saturday. So this will be triple that. So it will be the most exciting thing I could have, that I have ever dreamed of, and I can't imagine anything else more.
Well, Mandy, you have 3 weeks to recharge your batteries, and I want to wish you all the best over the course of the next 3 weeks. I know you're on pins and needles right now, and I pray everything goes well with Tapit Trice, and when you get there, good luck in the Kentucky Derby, Mandy, and thanks for everything you do for this sport.
If I have one more second.
Go for
Here's
it.
a very interesting fact that I don't think too many people know, but Todd Pletcher also has Forte, who was bred by a lady named Amy Moore. Amy and I grew up in North Carolina. We were best friends as children. We rode together and showed together. So that's really exciting also.
Wow, I did not realize that part of the story. That's fantastic. Maybe
yes.
a Forte, Tapit Trice, dead heat in the Kentucky Derby. How about that?
No, I'd rather win.
Yeah, friendship only goes so far, Mandy.
That's right.
Wonderful. Mandy Pope with me here on Horse Racing Radio Network. Mandy, all the best. It's been a delight, and I'm sure I'll see you over in Louisville. Good luck, and keep it rolling. Thanks for everything you do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mandy Pope, Whisper Hill Farm. How do you not cheer for Mandy Pope? Right? How do you not cheer? And great, I did not know that about Amy Moore, growing up alongside her and then being best friends. So fantastic stuff, and best of luck to Mandy Pope and Tapit Trice going forward. Keith Desormeaux is hoping to get his first Derby win as well. He's hoping to deny Tapit Trice that win. He'll send out Confidence Game in 3 weeks. I'm going to talk to Keith coming up after this next break. But first, your Legends of the Turf story, a short break, and then Keith Desormeaux.
On Saturday, July 16, 1965, nearly 60,000 racing fans gathered at Hollywood Park for the running of the Gold Cup over 10 furlongs on a superbly conditioned racing strip under a brilliant sun and a robin's egg blue sky. Most had come out to see if Native Diver, the 6-year-old homebred, who had already become a local folk hero, could win yet another big one. In his 2 previous starts, Native Diver had beaten Viking Spirit by a neck at level weights and world record equaling time of 1:20 flat for 7 furlongs in the Los Angeles Handicap, and had trounced a strong field in a 9-furlong American Handicap after being rested for 6 weeks. Swaps, the legendary Ellsworth hero, had been considered the best homegrown up until now, but Native Diver was pressing that reputation in no uncertain terms. He had had 21 stakes wins, all in California, and had earned over $400,000. In the field of challengers in this Gold Cup were the likes of Tronado, Meadowbrook Farm's solid performer, Ramon from the Foxcatcher Farm, and Ralph Lowe's Gauger. Native Diver was the high weight, packing an impost of 124, including regular rider Jerry Lambert. As the gate sprung open at the head of the stretch, Lambert gunned Native Diver to the front with a terrific burst of speed, and by the time they came by the stands for the first time, Native Diver was 6 in front on the way to clocking a 22-1 first quarter. He continued setting all the fractions on an easy lead through the clubhouse turn and posted a fairly swift 44-2 for the first half. As the field straightened out for the long run down the backside, Lambert gave him a little bit of a breather, and 2 horses, Ramant and Tronado, closed some ground until they were within 2.5 lengths of the leader. Native Diver had that margin at the 3/4, which had been turned in a very quick 108-4. He increased his lead as they went on down around the turn and was still 4 in front as they swung to the top of the stretch. The mile had gone in 1:34.1. Gauger had been rolling from far back and was within striking distance with 2 furlongs to the wire. Native Diver had enough left to run the final quarter in 25 flat and increased his margin slightly to wind up a clear and decisive 5-length winner. The final time for the 1 1/4 was 2 minutes and 1/5, which equaled the legendary Kayak the Second's mark. Owner L.K. Shapiro was absolutely thrilled with the win because it was the first time one of his horses had won a $100,000 race, the first time he'd won at 10 furlongs, and the first time he'd won an American Classic race at that distance with top weight. To add to the luster of this outstanding thoroughbred, he came back to win the Gold Cup again the very next year while packing 126 pounds in even faster time, 2 minutes flat. The pièce de résistance and the crowning glory was a third straight win in the Gold Cup at the age of 8 in a phenomenal time of 158.4. With the latter score, Native Diver reached the hallowed plateau of being a $1 million earner on the racetrack. You see, my friends, like fine wines, this extraordinarily fine Californian, Native Diver, had become better with age.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Racing fans, Santa Anita Park would like to thank all of our fans, both on track and off, for their tremendous support throughout our Classic meet, which concluded this past Sunday, April 9th. And we look forward to seeing you all back with us on Friday, April 21st for the beginning of our all-new Hollywood meet, which will run through Sunday, June 18th. We will again be racing on a Friday through Sunday schedule with Memorial Day weekend the lone exception at the end of May. Additionally, we'll again have free parking and admission as well as $3 beers and $5 margaritas on all Fridays throughout the Hollywood meet with first post time at 1 o'clock. And fans, it's not too early to make plans to join us on Kentucky Derby Day, Saturday, May 6th. Check our website, santaanita.com, for dining and seating opportunities. Santa Anita will be open for simulcast wagering this Thursday, April 20th, beginning at 10 a.m. Parking and admission are free. Santa Anita, it's the great race place.
Perennial leading consigner Eddie Woods is off to another fast start in 2023.
New Grange takes the San Pasquale, but Hopkins is too strong, finishing up powerfully to win the Palos Verdes, and it's Newgate to score by about a head. Reincarnate to take the Sham.
It's Rocket Can to win the Holy Bull.
Additional 2023 stakes winners include Occult, Lane Way, and Sharar, who took the Jumeirah Derby in Dubai. Find your next winner at the Eddie Woods consignment at OBS March. Visit eddywoods.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Reincarnate still has a long way to come, and Giant Mischief off the top of the turn is joined by Longshot Confidence Game, and Confidence Game is now a length and a half in front. Reincarnate is trying to split horses to the outside, and Red Route 1 from the back of the pack. It is Confidence Game. Red Route 1 moves into second. Confidence Game, Red Route 1, Confidence Game! The 63rd Rebel goes to Confidence Game over Red Route 1. Reincarnate was third and Verifying finished fourth.
Fixed offer with the call of the Grade 2 Rebel at Oaklawn back on February 25th. That's the last time we've seen Confidence Game in action in the afternoons. He was in action yesterday at Churchill Downs, working 1 mile from the gate in preparation for the Kentucky Derby in 3 weeks for trainer Keith Desormeaux. And going to get a chance to talk to Keith momentarily. We are efforting Keith Desormeaux. He is going to be very busy today, as he also is going to be running horses at Oaklawn in Arkansas. So we'll get a chance to catch up with Keith, hopefully in the next couple of minutes, and talk to him about what happened yesterday with Confidence Game, that move that he put in. Interesting, in the press release sent out by Churchill Downs, Keith was quoted after that 1 mile, and that's a little bit of an unconventional thing. We don't see horses breeze a mile from the gate in preparation for the Kentucky Derby very often. And Keith was quoted as saying that at first, when I looked at the final time, I was a little disappointed. Then I got back to the barn and went through the splits, and I had a renewed sense of confidence, for a lack of a better term. So as he got into it, he said, okay, maybe that move wasn't as bad as I initially thought it was. And if Confidence Game does get to the Kentucky Derby in 3 weeks, he'll be coming into the race off of a unconventional 10-week layoff, but that doesn't concern Keith. He's made all of these moves in hopes of getting Confidence Game to peak when he gets to Louisville on the first Saturday in May. And Keith is with us now, so we'll ask him. Keith, first of all, good morning, my friend. Thanks for the time.
All right, man. Good morning to you.
I was just talking about the 1 mile breeze from the gate yesterday, and I read your quote where you said you at first were a little disappointed with the time, but then you looked at the fractions and the splits, and you said, okay, I have a renewed sense of confidence. So tell me what was going through your mind as you went back through everything.
Well, overall, the time was decent, but not as fast as I thought it would be. I thought he'd go 37 and change, even 36, which is above average, way above average. But you got to be not only above average, but superior if you think you're going to win a race like the Kentucky Derby. So at first I thought the time was a little lackluster, but once you figure, if you ever been to Churchill, there's about a 5-second lead up to the quarter pole from the gates. So, and they start the clock a bit early here. So he actually did go 36 and change, 37. But the real reason I was encouraged is that the eighth from the 3/4 to 7/8, he went in 12 and change. So he actually picked it up after a real fast beginning. So it accomplished what I wanted. 10 weeks off. We wanted to get to the bottom of them. A good stiff breeze today. We might, we'll do that again next weekend. Maybe not as hard and fast, but he's still going to get another good work into him. So if there's one thing we won't be lacking in, it's fitness.
Would you be taking?
Well,
I guess you wouldn't
say the word unconventional.
Yeah.
If I did everything conventional, then I don't think you'd see the success with the kind of horses that I buy. So I'd like to think that we got something going on, and not everybody can do the same system.
Well, and 10 weeks coming into the Kentucky Derby is unconventional. We'll throw that word out there again. It's different. You could have run him another time in between that 10 weeks, maybe even 2 more times if you wanted to, but you chose not to. How come?
Well, several things. First, we weren't under pressure to gain enough points to get into the Derby. So that aside, all I have to do is think about how to get my horse to the Derby in his best shape to win. And we thought about the logistics of shipping back up to Arkansas, which would have required him to come back to New Orleans, sit in his stall 2 days, and then ship to Louisville, or maybe running the Bluegrass, which would require him to ship to Louisville only for a week, breeze, and then ship to Keeneland. I mean, it's logistics, just the shipping around. Horses don't do this as easy as people do. I'm sure maybe you do or don't realize that stuff, but it takes horses a while to acclimate. And I just didn't want to put another race into the horse during all these moves. I was more concerned about getting my horse settled and happy and content before I ask him for a major performance. That's why we skip the races.
You know, Keith, this is going to be your fourth trip to the Kentucky Derby, and your horses have always shown up and run pretty well. Sonneteer, I think, the one outlier who was 16th in 2017, but Exaggerator, second in 2016. My Boy Jack, a very, very solid fifth in 2018. So it's not like Keith Desormeaux is saying, hey, let's just bring a horse over here, saddle him up, and throw him to the wolves. You don't do that, man.
No, man, it takes a little more than – it takes these 30 years of beating the bushes to trying to figure out how to get the most out of these very volatile animals. So, yes, I'm proud of the fact that we have run good races here. You know, to win it, boy, it's just a incredible. I'm at a loss for words, but just to win the Derby is just in another stratosphere. But we're very appreciative in the first place to be here. So, yes, thank you.
Yeah. And, you know, it's kind of one for the little guys in the sport, if you will, and it shows that anything is possible in thoroughbred racing. You purchased this horse for $25,000 as a yearling, and here he is going to the Kentucky Derby. His pedigree is really interesting, too. He has a family that says, okay, 1.25 miles, no problem. Tell me about the family.
Well, you probably heard the stories by now. Yeah, he's out of Zenyatta's sister. Mm-hmm. So, and she's a Bernardini mare. So Bernardini has grown recently as an outstanding broodmare sire, and distance has never been a problem. Of course, Candy Ride, you know that his offspring do it all. So yes, 1.25 miles will not be an issue. And, you know, that might be one reason, of course not with this horse, but with a lot of the horses that I buy, I concentrate on classic distance horses. And to tell you the truth, I don't think the market is not the greatest for those kind of horses. Maybe pedigree-wise, but not the build. The build, the confirmation of a horse that needs to get 1.25 miles, usually people run and hide. So maybe that's one reason why I get them for good prices. But whatever the case, I'm going to keep doing it.
Why do you think you were able to get Confidence Game for just $25K?
Well, there's no doubt that he had an issue with some X-rays, some immaturity, or maybe points in his pre-sale X-rays that the vets for whoever bred him weren't confident with. That we're using his name again. So it was a horsemanship decision that I made. I didn't care what the X-rays said. I knew what I was looking at physically. This horse is very tight jointed and balanced and correct and everything that I look for in a racehorse. I just did not care what those X-rays said. No, a lot of times it doesn't work out, but thank goodness in this case it did.
Yeah, talking with trainer Keith Desormeaux, getting ready to saddle Confidence Game in 3 weeks in Louisville. He has to keep everything on track, but he's done it so far, and no reason to think that he won't keep it rolling here. Keith, these next 3 weeks, I talked to Mandy Pope in the previous segment. From the owner perspective, you're always sitting on pins and needles. Is it kind of like that for the trainer too? Getting into a big race like the Kentucky Derby, are you on pins and needles every time he steps onto the racetrack?
Absolutely not. This is a celebration. We're in the race. We've accomplished major goals, and the Derby weekend and what it encompasses is what all we as horsemen thrive to be a part of. It's very hard to get here, and to be a part of it, there's no way I'm going to let it drive me to being stressed. No, I enjoy every minute of it. No, I'm not on pins and needles at all. This is a celebration. This is it's great for the sport, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
No, what a fantastic attitude. Great approach from Keith Desormeaux as he gets ready to make his way to the Kentucky Derby for a fourth time. when you hear those words, Keith, a fourth Kentucky Derby, there were trainers in the sport for a long time that never even make it there. You've been there now. It will be 4 times. What's that mean to you?
Well, the first thing that I think about is, yes, I've been there 4 times, but my best horse, I didn't get in, and that was a shame because Texas Red was an absolute monster, and he had some issues that didn't allow him to get there. We made it to the Jim Dandy and those races later on during the summer, but what a shame we didn't get here with him. That was a piece of work that I was really proud of, only a $17,000 yearling and Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, and just an absolute, he was freaky good. Yeah, to get here, and, we had one in a couple of years ago. I struck a nerve, and just to get here, have 5 out of the last 10 years, man, I've been blessed. So we're going to try to keep that trend going.
Yep. Yeah, impressive. Before I let you go, I know you've got to get back to training, Keith, but I'll ask you real quick about the Count Fleet handicap today at Oaklawn at Grade 3. You're going to saddle Surveillance. Tell me a little bit about him.
He's an awesome horse, but it was a lot of work to get him where he is now. He was a definition of what you would call a rogue when he was young. He refused to train. He would prop. He would try to take the gap at a full gallop. I mean, everything. He'd rear up with the rider and just stomp his feet and say, "Hell no, not interested." And I did a few things. Turn him out, send him to different farms to train, just to kind of change his wiring mentally, and nothing really worked. So we castrated him, and you know what they say, that's the ultimate equipment change. It did change the wiring. He allowed himself to train, and that's when he got good. But what a talented animal, and we're excited about his chances today.
And you give a leg up to my man, Lucky Charm, Jimmy Graham.
Right. Can't get enough of James.
Great stuff. Keith, all the best later today in the Count Fleet, and certainly all the best over the next 3 weeks. And when you get to Louisville, I'm sure I'll see you over there. But keep it rolling, my friend.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
All right, trainer Keith Desormeaux here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. We'll see. Interesting approach. 10 weeks is asking a lot, but he seems pretty confident that he's made every move correctly, and we're going to see how that pays off when the gates open on the first Saturday in May. Coming up next, it is Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Neuman. He takes a look at his top 5 list for this week. Saffie Joseph Jr. coming up at 9 Eastern, 9:20 Unsung Heroes presented by Woodbine, and at 9:40 Jockey Sheldon Russell, plus much, much more in Hour 3. I'll tell you all about it next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. .gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
I'm William Shatner, and I've been around a long time, but I'm truly humbled when I see the real battles our brave, paralyzed veterans have faced defending our freedom.
I was on a routine patrol, and we were in the desert of Kuwait, and the vehicle flipped and landed on top of me, which left me paralyzed from the waist down.
Okay, folks, this is heroism. That's why I'm proud to support Paralyzed Veterans of America. Go to PVA.org to learn how you can make a difference.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Neuman.
The final three of the 200-point qualifiers on the road to the Kentucky Derby were held last Saturday, and we saw three very tight finishes. Starting at Keeneland in the Grade 1 Bluegrass, where the two betting favorites, Tapit Trice and Verifying, dominated the field. They came together at the top of the stretch and battled fiercely to the wire, with Tapit Trice eventually gutting out the win. They finished about 6 clear of their closest competitor and figured to renew acquaintances next at Churchill Downs. At Aqueduct, it was a 3-horse driving finish between favored Hit Show, Maiden Dreamlike, and 59-1 long shot Lord Miles in the Grade 2 Wood Memorial. The three rivals exchanged several bumps down the lane before Lord Miles narrowly prevailed. There was a steward's inquiry into the stretch run, but ultimately no change to the order of finish. Lord Miles and Hit Show seem headed to Kentucky. Finally, at Santa Anita, Tim Yakteen's Practical Move was a solid favorite in the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby. He swept to a clear lead turning for home and was all out to hold off Japanese invader Mandarin Hero, as well as the up-and-comer Skinner. Practical Move is headed for the Kentucky Derby, while both Mandarin Hero and Skinner need some help, sitting at 24th and 21st on the points list, respectively. The final points qualifier in 2023 is today's Grade 3 Lexington Stakes at Keeneland. A field of 11 was entered, but only Steve Asmussen's Disarm is a Kentucky Derby candidate. He's coming off a nice runner-up finish in the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby, and if he finishes third or better today, he'll have enough points to get into the starting gate on the first Saturday in May, which is only 3 weeks away. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
Spendthrift Farm introduces new for 2023 Classic winner Mo Donegal. A leading 2-year-old of his class, Mo Donegal won the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes to close out his juvenile campaign before going on to win the Grade 2 Wood Memorial and Grade 1 Belmont Stakes as a 3-year-old, joining Nyquist as Classic winners by Uncle Mo.
And it will be Mo Donegal to win the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes.
Mo Donegal became the first horse this century to capture New York's prestigious Remsen at 2 and Wood Memorial at 3. Mo Donegal, the newest Classic winner, standing at Spendthrift.
This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5, Derma Sotogake. The Japanese-based runners have been dominating worldwide, and he looked great in Dubai. Number 4, Kings Barnes. Hasn't done anything wrong yet and showed his versatility in the Louisiana Derby. Number 3, Practical Move. The Santa Anita Derby winner just keeps firing big shots. Number 2, Tapit Trice has shown tons of versatility and looks like he can run all day. And number 1 is Forte. The 2-year-old champ showed his grittiness in the Florida Derby. Next stop is Churchill Downs. That's your Calling All 3-Year-Old segment presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
Just realized I haven't given a Derby countdown yet. We're 1 hour into this 3-hour show, and I haven't done it. That is unprecedented. 21 days, 9 hours, 46 minutes, and 24 seconds until the Run for the Roses at Churchill Downs. And my thanks to Bobby and the Spendthrift for that Calling All 3-Year-Old segment that you hear each and every week. Poll question this morning. So many of you taking time to vote at HRRN on Twitter and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Who is your pick to win the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland? First Mission, Disarm, Arabian Lion, or other? And it looks like Disarm Yeah, he's in the lead right now. 40% of you saying it's Disarm, who's going to punch his ticket to the Kentucky Derby with a win today. At least he'll have the opportunity to go that way. And just as I said that, the vote's updated, and Disarm is now back to second with 30% of the vote. The other category at 31%, and it looks like Empire Strikes Fast getting some play, and Demolition Duke, another one who folks are thinking, okay, maybe this race is a little bit more wide open. And it certainly appears that way on paper, and it could play out that way on the racetrack at Keeneland this afternoon. All right, coming up, hour 2 begins with Saffie Joseph Jr. He'll look back on his big upset in the Wood Memorial last weekend. Unsung Heroes presented by Woodbine at 9:20. Sheldon Russell at 9:40. 10 o'clock Eastern, the TwinSpires Triple Play with Joe Kristufek. 10:20, Kurt Becker Stroll Through Racing History. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin. That's all ahead. I'll be back with hour number 2 right after this pause for 10 seconds for station identification and your Visit Barbados racing update. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Seven months after the Iroquois kicked off the 2023 Kentucky Derby Points Race Series at Churchill Downs, the road to Louisville makes its final stop at Keeneland in Lexington, Kentucky this afternoon with the Grade 3 Lexington Stakes. A field of 11 will meet the starter with 40 Derby points on the line, points which could prove critical for Louisiana Derby runner-up Disarm, who enters the Lexington in 26th place on the Derby points list. Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf winner In Italian returns to Keeneland for her seasonal debut in the Grade 1 Jenny Wiley later today, while at Oaklawn, all eyes will be focused on the rematch between Secret Oath and Clairiere in the Grade 1 Apple Blossom. And that's your Visit Barbados Racing Update, brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you'll realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, back with you here, hour 2 of the Equine Forum. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, well, you missed a lot. You missed my conversation with owner-breeder Mandy Pope of Whisper Hill Farm and trainer Keith Desormeaux talking about Confidence Game. You can go back to our website after we finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern to listen to the podcast at your leisure. You can listen to the full show whenever you have a little time, and do it at horseracingradio.net and Horse Racing Radio Network on every major podcast platform. So if you subscribe to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podbean or Google, whatever it is, all you have to do is type in Horse Racing Radio Network, and you can listen to this show and all of our shows at your leisure. All right, I told you hour 2 is busy. It was a busy day for trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. last weekend because of his upset in the Wood Memorial, and now he's looking toward the Lexington Stakes later today. So always in the spotlight, and he's with me now here on HRRN. Saffie, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Good, buddy. You know, I said earlier in the show that there's no way on earth Saffie Joseph Jr. could have been thinking about booking a room in Louisville before the Wood Memorial last week. I mean, were you really thinking, okay, after this race, I'm going to have to make reservations?
No, I mean, you always hope for the best in every race, but that's the least thought at that stage. You're just hoping the horse runs well and finally shows the ability that you think he has.
Talk about the decision to send him to New York.
I mean, there's a horse that showed potential from when he broke his maiden, but he's been kind of inconsistent how he runs off the bridle a lot and gives himself too much to do. And first off, he won, and then second time in the Mucha Match, man, he was third. Then he went to the Holy Bull, and that was kind of a very disappointing performance. We put blinkers on there, and he kind of lost confidence a bit. Like, how could he run so poorly? Gave him a shot at Tampa, and he ran sneaky good at Tampa. At the quarter pole, he would run last. He was reversing it on their drive, and then once he got him in the clear, he kind of stayed on evenly, never going to win, but creditable fifth, and that gave us the confidence to give him one more chance, and it obviously worked out.
Yeah, what was the key to victory for him last week?
I mean, just be able to sit more handy in a clear position and not give himself so much to do. Over there, that's one of the reasons we chose the Wood too. Is like it's kind of a slower surface where the race is going to unfold not as fast, and he could probably obtain a better position. He was able to sit closer. Paco did a good job of keeping it in clear, and he was able to sit closer. And I mean, he has the stamina to stay, and that's what he needed in the end to get it done.
And he had a fight on his hands. Hit Show, the favorite, was battling with him all the way through the lane, and Lord Miles would not let him by. Did you know, did he ever show you anything in the mornings, Saffie, that led you to believe that he had that kind of fight?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very good workhorse. That's why going into this first race, we had high potential, and then on the way he won that day, like he broke on top, dropped back, and really quick and clear. I mean, we were just hoping he never showed it in a race. Basically, like what we kept seeing in the morning, like his numbers were slower on the slower side as far as the speed figures. And on the morning, he's a very handy horse. He can quicken a push button. As I said, we knew he had the ability, but we hadn't been able to get it out of him. At least what we wanted until basically the Wood. This is the first time he made that jump forward.
I think the concern on a lot of people's minds, not just the fact that he was 59-1 in the Wood, but the way he did have to fight and battle through the stretch, wins by a nose. And people will say, well, maybe that took too much out of him coming into the Kentucky Derby. What have you seen from him in the days following that effort?
I mean, he hasn't done much. He shipped back to Florida the next day, and he's been back here since then. We had some rain, so he just had it easy, which nothing was really planned to too much anything strenuous this week. As far as his appetite so far, it's been good, and that's the main thing you could ask for right now. He's going to have a work next week, and from there we'll build up.
You had more than some rain down there this past week, Saffie, and we hope that everybody is continuing. I saw some reports on the news this morning before I started the show that there are still areas of Fort Lauderdale that are flooded. We know Gulfstream had to cancel a couple of days because of that high water there. It was a historic flooding. I know you told me, I checked on you, and you said that everything was good at your barn, but just talk about what the horsemen down there went through these past few days.
Yeah, it started, like, you normally see a hard shower for like 30 minutes, but picture that, and it just went on for 20-plus hours. It did not stop. I've never seen that much rain in such a short period of time. And Gulfstream, our barn, thankfully, is in a higher location, so we weren't flooded, but the entrance to come into all the other barns were flooded, and unfortunately those barns got flooded, so the horse had to move out. Everything's back in order right now. They were adequate in moving them out on rebedding the stalls, and they're all back in order basically.
Talking with trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. He's going to go back to the Kentucky Derby for a third time. 2020, it was New York Traffic who took him there. Last year, White Abarrio, the Florida Derby winner, and now he's going back there with his big long shot Lord Miles, who won and pulled off that big upset in the Wood Memorial. Saff, anything that you've learned from those previous two trips to the Kentucky Derby that might help you this year?
What I've learned is don't have expectations, because last year I thought we went there with a pretty good chance, and obviously we walked away disappointed. So just get to the Derby. Hopefully you get to the Derby on a year, and we'll go there and hope for the best, but don't expect too much. I mean, because it's a Derby. As you saw the result last year, there was a lot of horses with chances, and probably the least likely winner ended up winning the race. So, I mean, just reserve your opinion. Hope all goes well until then, and enjoy the moment. Let the owner enjoy the moment. That's what you're there for, the owners.
Tell me a little bit more about the owners of Lord Miles.
Peter Vex has obviously been in racing for quite a long time. He's a homebred for him. He's bred a Breeders' Cup winner. He owned a Breeders' Cup winner also, but he's never been to the Derby yet. So when this horse broke his mane, I told him that we possibly have a Derby horse, but might have spoke too quick, because after that, nothing went the right way, and sometimes you set yourself up for trouble when you disappoint. So thankfully it's worked out now, and Peter was super excited. He's an very easy guy to train for. Doesn't really put much pressure on you in that aspect. So always lets you do what you think is right for the horse, and to get him to the Derby, with him giving us the opportunity the last 2 years to train for him, that's the most rewarding thing that you want, is to make sure that the owners are happy and that you're achieving their goals for them.
What do you do with Lord Miles over the course of the next 3 weeks? Walk me through the game plan.
He'll work back next week, probably Thursday or Friday. I haven't decided the day exactly, but it'll be one of those days, weather permitting. And then he'll have another work the following week on ship to Churchill like Saturday or Sunday, 7 days before the race, 8 or 7 days before the race.
And get one good breeze over the track?
No, he's going to do both of his works are going to come out Gulfstream.
Okay, nothing over Churchill Downs. He'll just gallop when he gets to Churchill.
Nothing. Unless the first work next week is Gulfstream for sure. If the weather looks shaky, then he could possibly ship him and have a work at Churchill instead. But as of right now, the plan is to do both of his works at Gulfstream.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, some people would look at that too, Saffie, and explain that to me, because people will look at that and they'll say, boy, if you're going to win the Kentucky Derby, you got to get at least one workout over the surface. But you subscribe to a whole different philosophy.
I mean, I've always looked through all the past winners of the Derby, and a lot of horses have shipped in without working on the surface. Alfred's done it many different years, so there's many ways to win it, obviously. And what's the correct way? Nobody knows, because if they do, they would keep winning it every year. That doesn't happen, obviously. So you have to treat it basically like another race. It most definitely isn't another race, but you got to do what works for you in the past and hope it follows suit.
Yep, yeah, it's a great point. Saffie Joseph Jr. here on HRN. Saff, let's switch gears and talk about what's going to happen later today at Keeneland. In the Lexington Stakes, you're going to send out Prairie Hawk, 15-1 on the morning line, but you lure the services of Hall of Famer John Velasquez. So tell me more about Prairie Hawk in today's Lexington.
Yeah, Prairie Hawk is a horse that's shown some ability. I mean, he's coming out of the Tampa Bay Derby, which has seemed to become a productive race. You got Tapit Trice winning the Bluegrass, and you got Lord Miles winning the Woodbine Memorial. So the race is worked out to be a productive race. He actually beat Lord Miles in there. He ran 4th. He's a horse that he's one step away from breaking through in these kind of races. So this race has come up actually pretty tough. You got Disarm, you got the Bill Mott horse in there, and then you got the Arabian Lion on the outside. So there's 3 good horses, just standouts. Plus Brad Cox has two solid ones in there. So it's a competitive race, very competitive race. He's going to need to run a lifetime top to win it, but he's a horse that's improving, and these 3-year-olds, when they're improving, you got to give them a chance.
Saffie, some people may say this is blasphemy, but if you pull this one off with a horse that's 15-1 on the morning line, you go with huge upsets back-to-back weekends and graded stakes. Can we start looking at Saffie Joseph Jr. as being the next giant killer?
That's a bit far-fetched at the moment.
It's been quite a ride for you the past few years, though, Saff. Things have just been going so well. Tell me just a little bit more about your team and your operation. There are a lot of people out there, even though you're making your way to your 3rd Kentucky Derby, that don't know Saffie Joseph Jr. So just walk me through the way that you approach things and the other folks that are involved with helping you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a full team opportunity. We obviously came from Barbados in 2011 and started with 2 horses, and we built up a lot of great clientele and a great staff, and that's what you need. There's no 2 ways to put it. The owners are who make trainers successful, and when they give you the opportunity, then you have to have the staff to take care of the horses in an adequate way, and we're blessed to have both. We have good owners, and we have a good staff, and they are who make Saffie Joseph successful, basically. It's a puzzle. It's a puzzle with probably 1,000 pieces, and I'm one small piece of the puzzle. But everybody has to do their part, and without each person doing their part, it's not going to be successful. And each person has to hold their own and perform the duties for the horses at the end of the day, which are the most important piece.
Saff, even if Prairie Hawk were to win today's Lexington, he's not going to get into the Kentucky Derby likely. Would the plan be then Preakness Stakes? Would you look that direction?
Yeah, nothing's really decided after this race. You just kind of want to pick one race at a time and see how you get on. I mean, like, realistically, look at the race. It's a tough race. If you could run in the first 3, you'd be very happy walking away from there. You just want something to build on with these horses, like to move in the right direction with something to build on. I mean, you love to win, but you got to be realistic. Most of the time, you don't win it. So you just want your horse to show up, come out safe and sound, and run this race, and that's all you can ask for.
Saff, I hope we have time to catch up for a little dinner when you get to Louisville. All the best over the next couple of weeks with Lord Miles, and good luck later today in the Lexington, my friend.
Thank you very much, Mike. Take care.
All right, Saffie Joseph Jr. here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Baba, as they call him back in Barbados. You know, and I say this a lot when Saffie comes on the show, but he is a Triple Crown winning trainer. He won the Triple Crown in Barbados years ago. Are You Talking to Me was the name of the horse, and Saffie now looking to add the first leg of the Triple Crown in 3 weeks at Louisville. We'll see. He's going to be a bomb again on Derby Day, and certainly should be a huge price on Derby Day, and it would be great to see him run well, but he's definitely going to have to up his game and run the race of his life, even more than the Wood Memorial, if he's going to have any shot at contending in Louisville in 3 weeks. All right, coming up next, it is time for this week's edition of Unsung Heroes, presented by Woodbine Entertainment, and I get a chance to welcome Amber Hutchinson, who is a longtime groom at Woodbine, and the one really neat thing about Woodbine is that they give a Sovereign Award to a groom every year, and this year there were 2. She's going to talk about that. She's also going to talk about her journey. It's a really cool story. It's Unsung Heroes. It comes up next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Perennial leading consigner Eddie Woods is off to another fast start in 2023.
New Grange takes the San Pasquale, but Hopkins is too strong, finishing up powerfully to win the Palos Verdes, and it's Newgate to score by about a head. Reincarnate to take the sham. It's Rocket Can to win the Holy Bull.
Additional 2023 stakes winners include Occult, Lane Way, and Sharar, who took the Jumeirah Derby in Dubai. Find your next winner at the Eddie Woods consignment at OBS March. Visit eddywoods.com.
This Healthy Horse Tip is brought to you by Kessmark. Spring in Kentucky is beautiful, but allergies can prove to be a real challenge for horses. Pollens and air pathogens can irritate a horse's airway, especially those coming from climates where spring begins much earlier, such as Florida, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Horses coming from the high desert of the West Coast can also have difficulty handling Kentucky's prime allergy season. Mucus, while considered normal by some, is not normal and serves as an incubator for fungus, bacteria, and other pathogens that will make a home in the airway if given the opportunity. Keeping the immune system in order and providing your horse with a clean airway through preventive measures such as feeding on the ground, wetting hay, clean shavings, and nebulizing products can all aid in reducing allergies and keep the immune system healthier to address the important things the body needs, such as athletic recovery. For more healthy horse tips, visit Kessmark.com or follow them on Twitter at Kessmark_equine. That's KESMARC_equine.
Get ready, racing fans. It's time for the spring meet at Laurel Park. Join us every Thursday through Sunday for live racing action. Mark your calendars Saturday, April 15th and Saturday, April 22nd for the Spring Spectacular Stakes and the Spring Turf Festival. 9 stakes races totaling $950,000 in purses. What are you waiting for? Come to Laurel Park and experience the thrill of live racing. Visit laurelpark.com for more info. That's laurelpark.com.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Scholarships are available. Visit rtip.arizona.edu.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Heroes in the world of sports are not uncommon, oftentimes thrusting themselves into the limelight through unimaginable feats.
Back behind the ball, Woods puts it.
And in! He has done it! Tiger is back! Tiger is back on top! Tiger Woods, the 2019 Masters champion.
And breathtaking performances.
Here's how you count to 8. 3, 2, 1. And for the 8th time, college basketball's national championship trophy is coming home to Kentucky.
But behind every great hero, there are others. Individuals who play a crucial role in the achievements of those we read about in the headlines. the ultimate team players. Content to stand behind the curtain, embracing their place as a vital part of a sport's success. In horse racing, these are the unsung heroes.
On Thursday evening, the Canadian Thoroughbred Society and the Canadian Thoroughbred Industry celebrated their Sovereign Awards, which are the equivalent to the Eclipse Awards here in the United States. And they honor Horse of the Year and the top owners and breeders and trainers throughout the year. The other thing that they do, which I think is fantastic, and it's different from what we do here in the States with the Eclipse Awards, is that the Sovereign Awards also honor the outstanding grooms from the past season. And this year, there were two. Amber Hutchinson and Ricardo Nicholson. And Amber Hutchinson is with me now as this week's Unsung Hero. I tell you all the time that grooms are the backbone of the thoroughbred industry, and without grooms and exercise riders and hot walkers, we don't have a sport, and I'm sure that Amber would 100% agree with that. She's with me now as a Sovereign Award winner. She is here as an Unsung Hero, too. Amber, appreciate the visit.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, congratulations on that honor. It's quite an achievement. You should be very, very proud. When you heard your name called, did you know that you were going to get this, or was this a total surprise?
I was pre-warned, thank goodness, because I probably would have not shown up to the awards. But yeah, my boss is amazing and nominated me, and I'm assuming wrote a really wonderful letter. And yeah, super grateful to be recognized.
That boss is a Sovereign Award winner in his own right. That is trainer Mike Doyle, who's had a ton of success in this sport, and he was kind enough to do that. You've been working with Mike for what, about 17 years now?
Yes, this is my 17th season with him.
Wow. What's made that relationship so successful? Why does it work?
I actually started for him as a swing groom, and I liked the way the barn worked. I liked the crew that they had. I fit in very well with it, to the point where after 2 or 3 years, I finally said to Brent Harris, the assistant trainer, can I have my own set of horses come next season? And that's how the story started.
Wow. Do you remember the first time you walked into his barn and started looking for a job? Is that how it occurred? Did you go to him, or did he come to you?
Actually, my brother-in-law, Darren Gomez, mentioned that they were looking for help. And I was in between jobs, and it became a really great fit.
And it's been a wonderful relationship ever since. 17 years is a long time to be working with one person or one company, whatever the case may be. Explain to me, Amber, what your job is as a groom now, and your role with Mike.
I do day-to-day care. So they basically become my children. I look after them, doing leg work or training work or extra snuggles or a little bit of correction here and there. It is what it is. And we become a team, and that team goes through the training process and the racing process, and sometimes is very fruitful, and sometimes it's just fun to be around them.
Yeah, what is it about horses that first attracted you to the sport?
Personally, I find them very much like people, except they don't talk. So you have to learn to read them. They tell you what they need. You just have to learn each individual interpretation of what they want or what they need.
And every horse has their own personality, right?
Absolutely. Just like people.
Which horse can you, and I'm going to ask you this just to think of this off the top of your head, but which horse or horses have you been around in your 17 years working with Mike Doyle that have had maybe the biggest personalities or stand out to you the most from that aspect?
Absolutely. Number one was Bill Graham's horse, Peyton. He was a big, I call him black, but we all know they're all dark bays, technically. Mm-hmm. He was my big black stallion. He had an attitude and a half. And, of course, I'm the shortest person in the barn, and he was the biggest horse in the barn, and just an absolute character. Little tinge of evil, but we formed a pretty good partnership and learned to work together.
Do you think that the horses that you're working with day in and day out get to recognize you and know that when you come by that you're their friend or whatever it might be?
Oh, absolutely. Every morning when I get there, I'm usually the first person in the barn. And when I go along and I turn on the stall lights and I say good morning to them, if they're not laying down still sleeping, they all come to the door and say, "Oh, good morning, Mama." They'll nicker at me, say hi. Yeah.
I love it. It's so rewarding, too. And do you agree with what I said in the opening, before we started our conversation, in the opening to this segment, when I said that without grooms and hot walkers and exercise riders, we don't have a sport? It's so critical.
It really is. It really is. They're like you say, the unsung heroes. The craziest hours possible, and just insanely hard work, but we don't do it for the paychecks or the recognition. We do it for the love of the animals.
What does that typical day look like for you, Amber?
I start early because I like to get my things done. So I'll go in, I muck all my stalls, I get all my water buckets set up, my training laundry ready, get the first set ready, bed them down as they go out, bath them when they come back in. They go and they walk with my hot walker Chico till they're cooled out and ready to go in. Sometimes if the weather's nice, they get to go out on the lawn and have 15, 20 minutes of grass. And then they just chill out in their stalls until I'm ready to do whatever leg work or body work they might need. And then they have nice afternoon naps until dinner time.
It's a full day worth of work, and I'm visiting with Amber Hutchinson, recently named a Sovereign Award-winning groom. She works with Mike Doyle. She's been working with trainer Mike Doyle for 17 years now, and you heard her talk about that relationship just a few moments ago. Amber, what's the most rewarding part of being a groom in horse racing?
I have to say, when you get a new 2-year-old in, complete fresh paint, and you get to mold them into whatever their natural talent and ability can make them, and watching them progress and learning things and handling the gate and the crowds on race days, and then when they've realized they've done a good job, the pride they feel, you can feel it too.
That's really interesting, because I think most people, and this is why I created this Unsung Hero segment, I think most people, they see the trainer in the winner's circle, they see the trainer's name in the program, they don't see the groom's name in the program, and they think it's the trainer that's, and the trainer, let's face it, is doing a lot of the work, maybe the majority of the work, but you're saying that for you it's rewarding to be able to help out on that front and to work with these young horses and bring them along. So what does that work look like for the groom? What do you do when you get a new horse into the barn?
I basically spend a couple of days just getting to know them, fitting them into the working routine, the training routine, all of that. And then just doing their day-to-day care, making sure their bodies can handle the rigorous training we put on them. And I mean, Mike is fantastic at picking races for horses. He's got a wonderful eye, and he keeps a regular conversation with his staff to let him know where all the horses are and everything like that. And he's great at picking races that they really belong in.
How long does it take you to get to know a horse when they come into the barn?
Some will connect with me right away. Some take a little bit longer. The colts like to try and test a little bit more so than the fillies. But it's one of those things, you can't rush it, or it's not as tight-knit as it should be.
Have you ever thought about making the leap to training horses on your own?
Most likely not. I would not even know how to read a condition book, although I'm sure I could if I wanted to. I thoroughly enjoy working under Mike, and I have no desire to reach past that. I personally think it's a really good team between Mike Doyle and Brent Harris and all of our wonderful exercise riders. I'm very happy where I am.
Amber, if somebody comes to you and they say, maybe they're listening to this conversation, or they've seen an interview with you other places, or they meet you at the racetrack and they say, wow, that is so cool what you do. I think I might want to get into working with horses, being a hot walker, being a groom. What kind of advice do you give to that person?
Buy yourself an extra large cup of coffee and show up to the barn at like 4:30, 5 o'clock and say, hey, you want to learn? Somebody will put you to work.
Wow. Yeah. Somebody will help, and they'll take you under their wing. Was there a person early on that took you under their wing and kind of gave you a shot when you first wanted to be around horses?
Absolutely. Credit for my almost entire career goes to Jim and Julie Hutchinson, a father-daughter duo that I started working for when I was 15. It started off as just weekends and summer job. But, I mean, they taught me such wonderful foundations that I still rely on even now.
You were just 15 years old when you started. What
Yes.
did your parents think of the decision?
My mother, who raised me on her own,
Okay.
actually had to come in and sign for me to be an OJC license because I was under 16. And she swore up and down it would never stick because it was such early mornings. And here I am 20-something years later, still doing it.
Well, and I know that there are so many people thankful that you are doing what you're doing. And again, I think you speak for all the grooms here in racing, not just in Canada, all over the world that do this for a living. They are true unsung heroes, and you are certainly one of them, Amber. And I can't thank you enough for spending a little time here today to talk about your career and where you see things going leading in the future here. But all the best to you, and congratulations on that Sovereign Award. Well deserved.
Thank you very much again for the chance to come on and speak my piece. And thank you again for always shining the light on the little people.
No, they're
in my
big
opinion,
people.
they don't get near enough recognition.
Yeah, they're big people, huge people in the sport of thoroughbred
Right?
racing. And again, without grooms, we don't have a sport. So, Amber, thank you on behalf of the racing industry. Thank you for what you do.
And thank you.
All right, Amber Hutchinson, Sovereign Award-winning groom, longtime groom for Mike Doyle. They've been together 17 years, as you heard her talk about, and what a relationship it's been. Fantastic stuff. My thanks to Amber for taking time. She is this week's Unsung Hero, that segment presented every week by our friends at Woodbine Entertainment. I am back with more right after this word from Woodbine.
Attention horsemen, make plans now to race at Woodbine in 2023. The thoroughbred meet begins in April, and Woodbine will distribute more than $64 million in purses. Plus, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine's convenient proximity to Kentucky and New York, along with a 9-month racing season, make it the perfect place to compete this year. Shipping incentives may be available, so don't delay. Contact Director of Racing Tim Lawson today and visit woodbine.com for more information.
If you know someone you feel deserves to be recognized as an unsung hero in our sport, simply email their story to me, and I'll reach out and have them on this program in the weeks ahead. That's Mike at horseracingradio.net. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Attention horsemen, make plans now to race at Woodbine in 2023. The thoroughbred meet begins in April, and Woodbine will distribute more than $64 million in purses. Plus, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine's convenient proximity to Kentucky and New York, along with a 9-month racing season, make it the perfect place to compete this year. Shipping incentives may be available, so don't delay. Contact Director of Racing Tim Lawson today and visit woodbine.com for more information.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's that time of year again. The Keeneland Spring Meet is back. Make sure to pre-purchase tickets to join your friends and family for world-class racing at Keeneland. Gates open at 11. First post at 1 o'clock. Visit Keeneland.com for a full schedule of races and events. And be sure to download the Keeneland Race Day app before you go. See you there.
Racing at Gulfstream.
There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet, with live racing Thursday through Sunday and simulcast every day. It's spring season in South Florida and time to witness exceptional racing. Watch the action from Carousel Club or feast in 10 Palms with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, visit GulfstreamPark.com. That's GulfstreamPark.com.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
What a performance and a passion run by Two Phils, who's drawing away with authority. Two Phils, brilliant. Taking the Jeff Ruby Stakes, a prime performance. He won by over a half a dozen. In just a half a dozen Saturdays from now, he has a day to run for the roses.
Two Phils, the son of Darley Stallion Hard Spun, is Kentucky Derby bound following that win in the Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway. His 101 buyer in that race is the highest of any 3-year-old colt in North America this year and makes him your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Hard Spun. Two Phils was one of 11 black type winners in 2022 for Hard Spun. No stallion under $75,000 could top it. Learn more about Hard Spun and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And Baracho on the outside. I wonder where Craig is. Matching strides to the top of the lane with Noble Gaston in third and Chateau fourth. Whitty's got to get going under a drive in fifth, and Hunter Joe is 6, half mile and 44.47. They're into the stretch. Baracho with Wonder where Craig is down on the inside. Wonder where Craig is taking all the heat down on the inside. Has something left. Whitty on the scene late. Whitty's leveling off on the outside. Here comes Whitty on the outside, and it is Wonder where Craig is and Whitty down on the line together. Wonder where Craig is and Whitty. Wonder where Craig is, Whitty. Wonder where Craig is and Whitty. And a photo in a thriller. And Baracho was third. Whiskey in Your Chateau in a minute 9.99 photo.
Dave Rodman with the call of that 6th race at Laurel on April 13th. That was just 2 days ago. A winning effort for Wonder Where Craig Is under jockey Sheldon Russell, and that is a big one for Sheldon. His first win back after spending 94 days on the sidelines to rehab his left shoulder. He's back in action later today in the Federico Tessio, riding for his wife, Brittany. Going to talk more about that race and about his comeback here momentarily, right after I remind you that the Kentucky Derby is only 3 weeks away, but you don't have to wait 3 weeks to tune into all of our programming. You can check out a schedule at horseracingradio.net, and that includes our entire Derby week schedule as we broadcast live from Churchill Downs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. It's the Derby Countdown shows presented by Hillendale at Alapa. You can listen on Sirius 218 XM 202. Make that note. Those are different channels than you are listening to here on HRN right now. Sirius 218 XM 202, the Derby Countdown show presented by Hillendale at Alapa. Bobby Neuman, Jude Feld, get you ready for the Run for the Roses Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning of Derby week, and you can check out that full schedule at horseracingradio.net. And don't forget, you can listen to those shows with our live streaming on our website and via podcast on our site and on every major podcast platform. So we'll get you set to go for the Run for the Roses. Well, Sheldon Russell, as I mentioned, coming back from injury. He is back in the winner's circle again, which is always great to see. Sheldon is with me now here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Good morning, Sheldon.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on. I feel like it's been such a long time since I spoke to you, but I'm very happy to be back in the saddle and, looking forward to today.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but we did get a chance to catch up on this show last year after you made another comeback from a 296-day absence. I remember that conversation when you were coming back from your Liz Frank injury on your foot and then the broken collarbone. Man, it would just be nice to stay healthy and ride races, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the plan, right? This, this layoff wasn't as long, so it wasn't as hard to come back. So when you say 94 days, that should just be a walk in the park for me.
Yeah, and it wasn't like you were forced to the sidelines this time. You voluntarily made the move to get yourself healthy, and I guess you could have gone a couple different ways with the shoulder, surgery not surgery. You decided to go the rehab route.
Yeah, I've had the surgery. I have some hardware in the left shoulder, and I just really wasn't sort of going to go down that route again. So we just opted to do some physical therapy, and hopefully, knock on wood, everything feels good, and hopefully it works.
The moment when you crossed the finish line in front with Wonder Where Craig Is, and we just heard the call, it was a tight finish, but you're back in the winner's circle again. What was that moment like for you, Sheldon?
Yeah, very special. Craig is a special horse in the barn. He'd be one of my favorites. He's been there for a very long time in the barn. So, to get the opportunity to ride him, to get the opportunity to win his first race off a layoff. I think he had been off for about 6 months. So, yeah, it was like our both of our first wins back. So it was kind of nice.
Injuries for riders are common. It happens with every rider. When you get into this profession that it's not if you're going to get hurt, it's when you're going to get hurt. And we just pray that it's nothing serious every time, a rider sustains an injury. But Sheldon, you're 35 years old. You've had all of these things pile up in your body over the years. What's the reason? What keeps drawing you back and making you want to get back in the saddle again?
It's hard to explain. A lot of people, ask me that, but, I still enjoy what I do. I still enjoy waking up in the mornings and going out there and working the horses. And I still enjoy competing in the afternoons. And, look at today, I've got 4 decent chances. And, any one of these today could pop up and win. And I mean, all those injuries looking back, if one of these pop up today, I mean, it just changes everything. Next thing you know, if I won the test here today, next thing you know, we're in the Preakness. So, looking forward to days like this and looking forward to putting all those injuries at the back of my mind.
I remember talking with John Velasquez, the Hall of Famer, and I asked him that question. This is going back several years ago now, but I believe he was coming off of a spleen injury. And I asked him, Johnny, why do it? You don't have to do it for your family. You're pretty well situated. Why get back in the saddle and put yourself at risk again? And Sheldon, he described it as being almost like a drug that you have to have. That thrill of winning is just something that you can't replace with any other thing that you would do.
Yes. Okay. No, I'm with you. It's a completely different feeling. And like looking back on when we crossed the line on Craig, I mean, just the things that flash through your mind as you're galloping out, knowing that you've won a race, it's rewarding and it's just a great feeling. So look, I mean, we've had some bad luck along the ways, but we're still lucky to get up every morning and do something that we love to do. So as long as I can get up in the mornings and the body can still take it, we'll keep coming back. But I'll be honest with you, we're on our last legs here, so no more injuries, hopefully.
What have the last 94 days been like? We haven't seen Sheldon Russell. I mentioned rehabbing the shoulder. What have you gone through?
Yeah, I was sort of going, there's a rehab center probably about an hour from the house. I was going up there, 2 to 3 times a week and just spending, 2 hours every session. And we're doing some dry needling in the left shoulder. We were putting all the machines on it. And I'll be honest with you, I've got two young kids. I mean, they kept me on my toes. I was doing the school drop-offs. I was, just keeping busy. It was nice. It was a nice time to sort of recover, let the body heal up and, get ready for this summer.
How long does it take you to get back into riding shape when you step away for an extended period like that?
At 35 years old, a little longer than I thought it would. It just seems to get longer. I just remember like being a young kid, it would just take, a week, 10 days. I think it took me about 3 weeks this time. So it's just getting longer and longer. But I try to stay as active as I can. I try to stay, running and working and galloping horses in the mornings, but nothing like riding a race in the afternoon. You could do everything on the grounds, but until you're out there riding a race, that's really the only fitness you could get is going out there.
You made quite a mark for yourself in this game, Sheldon. 1,548 wins coming into today and, several great stakes to your credit. And now you and your wife, Brittany, doing this together, and she has really started to take off, and she has built herself into one of the top trainers, not just in that region, but certainly nationally too. What's that like, this whole dynamic and going down this road together now? It seems like it would make for a very powerful pairing.
Yeah, just, very proud of her. She's got some really nice horses in the barn and some really good owners and clients. She's got a great team behind her, and, I'm very proud to be a part of it and to help out in little bits here and there. So, we're a good team together, and it seems to be working quite nicely.
What's your role, other than being the guy that gets a leg up in the afternoons? What's your role in the mornings?
She'll, when the horses get close to running, whether it be, getting the gate cards early on or giving them their final workouts, and just sort of figuring out, what type of horses we have underneath us before we sort of make their maiden, before they start their their racehorse journey. So, we spend a lot of time in the mornings trying to, be on the same page. And, I guess I know what she wants, and she sort of, it just works. It's hard for me to explain, but it works. We get on very well in the mornings, and we just try and make sure that these horses are ready to run when we walk them over there.
Would you have won last week's Carter with Doppelganger?
Oh, absolutely. No, I don't. No, I don't know. I do. I tell you what, I do gallop him every day, though, and I begged her for that opportunity, but I think we couldn't do that. That would be too much, I think. Yeah, really cool horse. Super proud of him going up there and running like that. Hopefully he can keep improving and keep winning those big races for her and her team. That'd be great.
Yeah, you said that would have been a lot. You would have loved to have been aboard him, but that would have been a lot. A lot for you physically?
Yeah, just, I really hadn't had many races under my belt, and I would just, when I say thrown in the deep end, that would be, in the really deep end there, just to go straight off the layoff and ride a grade one. But hey, Toledo has picked up the pieces. Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job while I've been on the sideline. So all credit to him, and getting the job done and riding such a great race.
Yeah,
and me and Toledo have the same agent, so it works. He helps me with the horses in the morning, and if Brittany has two in the race, we'll split them up. So it's nice. It works.
Doppelganger giving Brittany Russell her first Grade 1 victory of her training career in the Carter last weekend. So a special moment for her. Congratulations to Brittany on that accomplishment. And I'm visiting with her husband, Sheldon Russell, the highly accomplished jockey who is back in the winner's circle after another layoff to rehab an injury and hopefully good health going forward for him. Well, you know what? Let me ask you one more question before we talk about the other races at Laurel today, because I do want to get your comments on some of those horses, Sheldon. But when a hitter in baseball is out for a long time, or when they first start coming back in spring training for the start of a season, they talk about their timing, and it takes them a while to get their timing down. I talked about the physical side of it with your rehab and coming back from injuries. How about the timing for a jockey? Is that something that can take a little while too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just these horses never go as fast as they do in the afternoons that they do in the morning. So when you say that timing, it's just the whole speed of the race is at a different sort of speed. And I'm trying to get that all together. I've had a couple races before, today's card. So hopefully the timing is coming around and, we can start picking it up from here on in.
All right, let's talk about a couple of the races today, and we'll start with the Federico Tessio. You mentioned earlier if you can win that race, you're in the Preakness because it is a win and you're in for the Preakness, and you're going to ride Prince of Jericho for Brittany, one of two horses that she has in there. Jevion Toledo will be on the other one. Tell me about Prince of Jericho.
Yeah, Prince of Jericho, a really nice horse to ride. I was lucky enough to be on him in an early stage of his career. I feel like he just keeps improving. Obviously, he's never been this far before, so we'll have to see. I'd have to get a really good trip and a bit of a worry on the outside post, but we have enough of a run to that first turn to get into position and get him comfortable and get him traveling. So hopefully I've picked the right one, right, Mike?
Yeah, well, you're 3-1 on the morning line, and the other horse is a bit of a longer price with Jevion. That is Circle the Drain, who is on the morning line at 8-1. So you've picked the more highly regarded one, at least in terms of the morning line odds maker.
Yeah, let's hope so. Like I said, Prince Jericho's probably had a couple. I think he's had 2 more races. Just hope. I just think hopefully we get a good trip. Like I said, we were on the outside, so like a sharp break and see if we can cross over and not lose too much ground into that first turn. And in the mornings he's been doing everything right. His regular work rider, and we couldn't be happier with him.
No, you certainly know how to ride that course, Sheldon, so no doubt that you can work out a trip aboard Prince of Jericho. How about Pharaoh's Baby Girl in the Weber City Miss Stakes?
Yeah, she's coming into the race pretty good. Another one I'd started off early in the sprinting maiden ranks. She seems to have found her sweet spot stretching out longer. So it'd be another one, hopefully, the 2 turns today, hopefully she can, relax a little bit, save some energy and get it all together and be able to finish up. I mean, there's a couple more speed horses in that race. So, hopefully we're not all 3 of us dueling together. But, we'll play the break. We'll try to be smart and we'll try to save some energy for the end.
Brittany will also give you a leg up earlier in the card in the 7th race, the Heavenly Cause Stakes aboard Hybrid Eclipse. Tell me more there.
Yeah, Hybrid's been, great for Brittany and her team. She's an honest filly. She's not the biggest filly in the barn, but she tries every time. They walk her over, and if we get a little bit of rain or the track is a little wet, she's proven that she can handle that. So yeah, looking forward to that, and looking forward to starting off riding her today. She'd be my first mount, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, is there rain in the forecast today, Sheldon?
There was a little bit this morning. It seems to have stopped right now, but I'm hearing it might come again a little bit later. So we'll have to see.
Of the 4 horses you're riding today, only one is not trained by Brittany. That's Steve Asmussen Bankit in the Frank Whiteley Stakes. Tell me about Bankit.
Yeah, Bankit's been great. I was able to ride Bankit. I think it was last year we got a win on him, or 2021 in the John Campbell. Very classy horse. Made a lot of money, consistent. Looking forward to getting back on him. Seems like the 7-8 shouldn't be a problem. Should get a great setup. There's a lot of speed in the race, so hopefully we can make that late wide swooping run and get them at the wire.
What's the game plan going forward, Sheldon? The 4 races you're in today are all stakes races. Is the plan to try to ride more quality over quantity, or do you still want to be in every race if you can?
Yeah, just probably just take it easy that first month that I'm back. Luckily enough today I've got 4 really nice horses back to back. So, on a big day today, 4 would be enough. I've only been back a few days, so I'd like to give every horse the best chance that I could. If I were to ride the whole card, I couldn't promise you I could make 11 races today. But, hopefully, people see that, we're back, we win some races, and, business picks up. Ideally, I would still like to ride as many horses as I can and, rack those wins up. I have some goals in that aspect. So, hopefully we'll take it easy and, hopefully everything works out.
Yeah, what's still left to accomplish for you? Where do you want to go in the coming years?
I'd just like to win a couple big races here. I'd like to get Brittany. I would love to get Brittany her second greatest stakes win after missing out on the first 2. So we'll see. I don't want to just give up just yet, but like I said, just hopefully stay healthy, win a couple races, and just continue to improve.
Well, it's so great to see you back in action, Sheldon. It's fantastic to see you back in the winner's circle, too. All the best later today. Good luck, and more than anything, safe trip every time you get a leg up.
I appreciate it, Mike. You guys take care, and thanks again for having me on the show.
All right, buddy. That's Jockey Sheldon Russell. Again, 1,548 wins coming into today. He's looking to add to that total with 4 mounts in stakes races, 3 for his wife Brittany, 1 for Steve Asmussen, and he has a pretty good chance aboard just about every single horse he'll be on today. So good luck to Sheldon Russell. When I come back, I'll take a look at a couple dates in racing history and get you ready for hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Hey everyone, it's the Baron with this week's North of the Border report presented by Woodbine Entertainment.
Woodbine opens their 2023 Thoroughbred meet next Saturday with the first of 133 racing dates scheduled this season. A stellar stakes schedule includes 39 graded stakes and more than $17 million in purses. Among the highlights is the first running of the $1 million King's Plate in 70 years. It takes place August 20th. Other Grade 1 races include the $1 million Woodbine Mile, the return of the $750,000 Canadian International, the $750,000 EP Taylor, and the $500,000 Summer Stakes and Natalma. It all begins next Saturday at Woodbine with the first post of 1:10 p.m. Eastern. And that's your North of the Border report for this Saturday morning. For more updates and racing information, visit woodbine.com or follow along on both Twitter and Instagram at Woodbine TV.
Racing fans, Santa Anita Park would like to thank all of our fans, both on track and off, for their tremendous support throughout our Classic meet, which concluded this past Sunday, April 9th. And we look forward to seeing you all back with us on Friday, April 21st for the beginning of our all-new Hollywood meet, which will run through Sunday, June 18th. We will again be racing on a Friday through Sunday schedule, with Memorial Day weekend the lone exception at the end of May. Additionally, we'll again have free parking and admission, as well as $3 beers and $5 margaritas on all Fridays throughout the Hollywood meet, with first post time at 1 o'clock. And fans, it's not too early to make plans to join us on Kentucky Derby Day, Saturday, May 6th. Check our website, santaanita.com, for dining and seating opportunities. Santa Anita will be open for simulcast wagering this Thursday, April 20th, beginning at 10 a.m. Parking and admission are free. Santa Anita, it's the great race place.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
Hey, this is Bobby Neuman. Join Jude Feld and me for our Derby Countdown shows Tuesday through Thursday of Kentucky Derby Week. We'll be broadcasting live from Churchill Downs as we speak with jockeys, trainers, owners, and handicappers, as well as bring you up-to-the-minute news leading up to Kentucky Derby 149. The Derby Countdown shows, presented by Hillendale at Alapa, Tuesday through Thursday of Derby Week, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Listen live on Sirius 218, XM 202, or online at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, if you missed this past week's trainer talk, you missed a lot. I had a chance to spend an hour visiting with trainer Ron Fauché, who after 3 consecutive Fairgrounds leading trainer titles, stepped away from the game to become a jocks agent. Speaks volumes about what trainers are going through in their lives and in their careers. And he was extremely honest in talking about all of the challenges that trainers face and the reasons he stepped away from the game. Again, that full hour conversation is now posted as a podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, and Horse Racing Radio Network on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify. However you get your podcasts, you can access our show. So go back and take a listen to that one. You won't be disappointed. And, of course, the Weekend Stakes preview show, which aired yesterday from 6 to 7 Eastern, is now posted as a podcast as well. Bobby Neuman and Dave Friedman get you ready to bet the races this weekend with analysis of all the big ones. So head over and check out that podcast on our website as well. Joe Kristufek with the TwinSpires Triple Play is going to give you 3 races you can keep an eye on later today, coming up in just a few minutes with the TwinSpires Triple Play, so stay tuned for that. But it is time now to take a look at a couple dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend. And we'll begin with April 15th, 1940. Today is the anniversary of the start of the racing season in Jamaica. That was the day that New York became the last major racing state to adopt electronic parimutuel wagering, thus eliminating on-track bookmaking. It was April 15, 1941, that in preparation for the May 3rd Kentucky Derby, Whirlaway worked a mile and an eighth in 1:52 at Keeneland in preparation for that Derby. Maybe it's not so crazy what Keith Desormeaux and Confidence Game are doing, working a mile as they did yesterday at Churchill Downs. April 15, 1943, with many of the country's young men joining In the war effort, women exercise riders were first employed at Pimlico Racecourse, and we know the history of female riders in the sport now. So many really good ones out there. April 16th, 1995. Tomorrow, the 28-year anniversary of Keith Desormeaux at age 25, becoming the youngest jockey to reach the 3,000 win mark when he rode Maisonnaire to victory at Santa Anita Park. And those are historical dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend in thoroughbred racing. One more hour to go. When I come back, I'm going to kick off Hour 3 with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Again, Joe Kristufek going to be here with 3 races you can keep an eye on this afternoon. 10:20, Kurt Becker will take you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. And at 10:30, I once again welcome trainer Dale Romans, turf rider Tim Wilkin on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. If your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the third hour of the show nationwide on Sirius 216 XM 204 in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680 or on your computer, phone, or tablet with live streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is coming up next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
1/8 of a mile to go. Toyota Bluegrass verifying is right there to the inside. Tapit Trice is right alongside. Past the 16th pole. Tapit Trice puts ahead in front. Tapit Trice wins the Toyota Bluegrass.
Mandarin Hero grinding away at him, and Skinner on the outside. Practical move. Here's Mandarin Hero surging. Practical move. Mandarin Hero. Practical move has won the Run Happy Santa Anita Derby.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Hit Show is now put a nose in front. Dreamlike is still there. Lord Miles up on the outside. They're coming down to the finish. Hit Show. Lord Miles. Hit Show. Lord Miles. Lord Miles. Lord Miles out of huge numbers. Cat Thief digging in at the rail. Worlds They Matter with Jared Bailey. Charismatic trained by Lucas on the outside. Now Lucas running 1-2. Charismatic on the outside. Takes command. On the inside, Cat Thief in the middle of the track. Menifee is flying, but it's Charismatic holding on to win it by a hand.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Oh, how about that? That doesn't get you fired up for a Saturday morning leading into the Kentucky Derby. I don't know what's going to. What a weekend last weekend. Been talking about that throughout the first 2 hours of the program and looking ahead to the Lexington Stakes coming up at Keeneland today, the final Derby points race, and we may very well see a Kentucky Derby contender come from that race, and I told you about that earlier in the show as well. Welcome back to the program, Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. One more hour to go on this Saturday morning, and it is loaded with all kinds of content, as it typically is. Going to kick it off with the TwinSpires Triple Play coming up in just a moment. Segue into Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History, another great story from Kurt this week. And then I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans, turf rider Tim Wilkin coming up at 10:30 Eastern to wind down this edition of the Equine Forum. But without further ado, my man Joe Kristufek is with me for this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Joe, welcome back to the program, my friend. It is always a delight to hear your thoughts, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your analysis of the 3 races you've selected this week, and a bit of a different twist to this week's Triple Play for you.
Yeah, I woke up this morning, and my initial thought is, where am I? I've been in New Orleans, I've been in Chicago, I'm back in Louisville now. It's a transition time of year for me, Mike, but finished up all the trip note work that I do for Fairgrounds on a day-to-day basis and got a really good handle on those horses coming out of that meet into Keeneland, into Churchill Downs eventually. So I'm going to have horses to watch not only in Kentucky, but we've got one that's sticking around in Louisiana that we'll talk about later, too.
Before we dive into these 3 races, Joe, let me just get a recap of what your thoughts are on the 3-year-olds coming out of Louisiana this year, because you were based at Fairgrounds all winter. We talked right around the time of the Louisiana Derby. Do we get a third Kentucky Derby winner from the Louisiana Derby in the past, 5 years or so?
I mean, I think Kingsbarns is hugely legit, and I know Todd's got 3 aces going in to the Derby, Pletcher with Tapit Trice, and obviously Forte being much more high profile than Kingsbarns is. But if you just look at the Louisiana Derby, I know the pace was slow and there wasn't a lot of speed on paper, and he took advantage of it. But this isn't a horse that needs to be on the lead. He can be in a tactical spot. There isn't going to be a lot of speed in the Kentucky Derby, although the pace will be faster than people expect because somebody's going to go, especially some of these no-hopes that are in the races that have a little bit of speed, no-hopes that are in the race, at least at this point in time. We don't know how it's going to play out before the draw. But Kingsbarn's going to be forward. He can settle. He just won going a mile in 3/16, and if you watch the race, I mean, he was drawing away at the end. He wasn't stopping. So I think people are maybe sleeping on him a little bit. Maybe he'll be a hype horse going into the Derby because of the way he trains, et cetera, or people like me talking him up. I know Scott Shapiro's got him number 1 on his Kentucky Derby list as well on our website. So, yeah, I think super legit. Angel of Empire, the Risen Star winner, super legit as well, and he backed it up in the Arkansas Derby. So, having Brad Cox and Steve Asmussen on the grounds is going to lead to good 3-year-olds coming out of Fairgrounds.
And we're going to talk about the horse that was second behind Kingsbarns in the Louisiana Derby because he returns in one of the races you have selected for the triple play today. That is the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland. We'll get to that in just a minute. But your 3 races today, you're going to start with the 5th race at Keeneland. We'll go to the 9th race at Keeneland, the Lexington, and then a curveball here for our listeners this morning. You're going to go to Evangeline Downs and the 4th race for your third and final pick on the program here today. And I can't wait for that because that's so different from anything we typically do, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, again, horses coming out of Fairgrounds, and I think the horse that we're going to talk about is 6-1 in the morning line. And, yeah, we'll get to that. Sometimes you need a little bit of night action after playing the races all day, whether you're up, down, or even. Sometimes you like to dabble in a few during the nighttime hours.
And remember, you can bet all 3 of these races at TwinSpires.com, and you can bet them any way you like after Joe walks through his analysis. All right, Joe Kristufek, let's kick it off. 5th race at Keeneland, 1 1/8 on the lawn. Really interesting field because you can go a lot of different ways. Which way are you going to go?
Yeah, so one of the horses I got to see run at Fairgrounds, number 1, my Red, White, and Blue for Mr. Louis Russell and Jareth Loveberry, who I'm super excited for. Going to ride 2 fills for Larry Ravelli in his first Kentucky Derby coming up the first Saturday in May. And, Jareth's a legitimate rider. He had another great Fairgrounds meet. And he was aboard my Red, White, and Blue, and the horse broke the maiden back on January the 6th, going this 9-furlong distance. I told some people, this time last year, if you would have told me the favorite in Kentucky Derby 149 was going to be by Violence, and actually Violence is represented by a couple horses in the Kentucky Derby, and this is a 9-furlong race on the turf, and the sire is Violence. Man, I thought he was a 1-turn sire, and all of a sudden he's getting these 2-turn horses.
Yeah.
And my Red, White, and Blue is one of them, right? So he won that race, and then he looked even better in the follow-up start in the Black Gold. Now, I know Wonderful Justice didn't come back and do all that well at Keeneland on opening weekend, but my Red, White, and Blue lost a bunch of lengths at the start, was really wide on the turn for home, and was just gobbling up ground, made up a ton of ground in the final 1/8 of a mile. He's got the rail post position here, should be able to save ground, and I don't think people are going to take him overly seriously in this spot. So we're going to tab him as our first triple play horse of the 3.
Can it be challenging sometimes, Joe, because you see these horses all winter long at the fairgrounds. You make your trip notes on them, and when you start looking at a race that includes those horses in their next starts, and it includes horses from Gulfstream and Turfway or wherever else, can it be challenging for you not to get too locked into the horses you've been watching all winter?
Is a great question. You have to handicap these races in totality for sure. And, if you've got bias against the horses that you've liked that maybe look good on paper, that's a really strong card to be able to play in some of these races. But when you like them against the competition that they face. You like them for what you saw visually. But now the waters are going to get much, much deeper. So my short answer to that, and it's really the only answer, is it's price dependent. If a horse like this is 5-2, 3-1, 7-2, I got a lot less interest than if the horse is 8-1. Now, I would certainly recommend you use them in the multi-race wagers because those win odds don't come into play necessarily. It's more about the morning line. But, yeah, you have to be careful with that. And, luckily for me, I've got people that do trip notes all over the country. I do follow the races at a lot of these other venues, Turfway, Oak Lawn. I mean, those races are going to be huge feeders into our races in Kentucky this spring. So I got good information on all of them. And then, your final decisions are made based on the potential value that the horse is going to show.
All right, so for Joe K., he's going to take my red, white, and blue number 1 in race 5 at Keeneland later today as his top pick at odds of 4-1 on the morning line. Race number 9 is the Grade 3 Stone Street Lexington Stakes, purse of $400,000, the final Derby points race of the season, and there is an opportunity for us to get a horse coming out of this race that runs for the Roses on the first Saturday in May. And Disarm is the name that comes to mind here, Joe. He was second behind Kingsbarns in the Louisiana Derby. I mentioned that earlier. He is a horse that looks the part in this spot today, at least from my perspective, but I'm really curious to see if you like him too.
I've never seen Steve Asmussen so happy after running second in a race that he was. I mean, they thought they were in, Mike. 40 points has always gotten you into the Derby. You run second in one of these 100-point races, you're in. The tweak of the point system was huge, and I don't know if the trainers, weren't paying attention or what. I mean, you've got to let your horse campaign itself. You're not going to run horses before they're ready, et cetera, et cetera. Steve ran Disarm in an allowance race at Oak Lawn instead of going in a stake right off the bat for his 3-year-old debut. But, man, the tweak of the point system where they are now awarding points to the top 5 horses instead of the top 4 really, really made a difference. Now you got to have, upper 40 points to be in the top 20, and that's why Disarm's in this race. There's no way Steve would ever run this horse in this race if he had enough points to get into the Derby. He could still get into the Derby. You never know what the defections are going to be like, but the way the point system was tweaked, it makes these trainers think twice about not running their horses in these prep races and just waiting for that 100-point race. That being said, Disarm's going to take a lot of money. I picked him in the Louisiana Derby. He ran a great race. He was second. He ran second to Kingsbarns. He's the horse to beat. But then, again, you have to look at the potential value that these horses are going to put forth. First Mission for Brad Cox is going to get a ton of action off that dominant win last out. Brad told me at Fairgrounds he thinks this is his Preakness horse. If this horse were to win, he's not going to have enough points to get in the Kentucky Derby anyway, so he's using this as a springboard probably to Maryland. But it's Brad's other horses are going to fly under the radar. Demolition Duke, who was second best in his second career start behind another Brad monster in Bishop's Bay on March the 19th at Fairgrounds, and he did not have a good trip. He broke slowly. He was 6 wide on the first turn. He rallied off heels 4 wide on the second turn, and it looked like he was going to get by Bishop's Bay. Bishop's Bay was a 2-5 favorite. Bishop's Bay held him off that particular day, but the effort was a lot better for Demolition Duke than it's going to look on paper with Disarm and First Mission and some of these other horses that have more class on paper. I think he's going to fly under the radar. I think you might be able to get 6 or 8-1 on him. And then again, that's how we approach these triple play. I try to give you either a horse, Mike, that you can single in your multi-race wagers. We've done that before, horses that I'm extremely confident in. And if I'm not going to do that for you, I'm going to try to give you some square prices. And I think this one fits that category.
Post time for the Lexington Stakes this afternoon, 5:16 Eastern. Again, race number 9 on the program at Keeneland. 1/16 on the main track, and it will be number 3, Demolition Duke, the top pick for Joe Kristufek in leg 2 of the TwinSpires triple play. The final one, bit of a wild card here. We go to Evangeline Downs, and you get a chance to maybe grab a little dinner after the Lexington Stakes and get ready to place your third TwinSpires triple play bet, and you do it on race 4, 1 mile on that main track, maiden special weight, $34,000 purse. It is for state-bred Louisiana breds. Joe, you've been watching these horses, as I said, throughout the winter. Who's your top pick in here?
It's number 7, Smart Izzy, who's 6-1 in the morning line. This horse is 0 for 7 ran second last out at Fairgrounds going that short stretched mile distance, trailed early and ran into some major trouble that day at 58-1, lost to a legitimate winner in Strawberry Sunday. And when you look back at the races prior to that, the race before was a turf race, and that was against Open Company, and the horse showed speed and faded. The race before that was against Louisiana Breds on the turf, finished fourth, got beat only 2 lengths. The winner of that race has since come back to win again. So this horse has sneaky good form on the turf and the dirt, but that recent dirt race at Fairgrounds with the trouble and the way the horse ran and who the horse lost to, really leads me to believe that this horse is going to fit exceptionally well in this race at Evangeline. You're getting 6-1 in the morning line on an improving horse with deceivingly good form. So Smart Izzy, hopefully, to cap off your Saturday evening. You talked about the appetizer, the dinner. Hopefully this will be the dessert.
All right, so just to recap Joe's top 3 selections here today. In the 5th race at Keeneland, he's going to take my red, white, and blue, number 1, at odds of 4-1. Race 9 at Keeneland, the Lexington Stakes, he'll go with Demolition Duke in a bit of an upset at 6-1. And in race 4 at Evangeline, Smart Izzy, 6-1 on the morning line. Those are 3 solid choices, and we'll see if Joe can get a couple of those home, maybe all 3. Who knows? You've been known to get hot on this show many, many times, Joe, so I know our listeners are tuned in right now and waiting, craving those races later today.
Yeah, it's like when you step up to the plate, you expect to hit a home run every time or at least a double into the gap. It doesn't always work out that way, Mike, but we do our best. We put in a lot of work, and it just never gets old. Every time they put the horses in the starting gate, it's a new adventure, and hopefully we can pick more than our share of winners, and that's always the plan going in.
I know, Joe, that many people are going to be seeing a lot of different things from the folks at TwinSpires over the course of the next 21 days as we get closer to the Kentucky Derby, and certainly throughout Derby Week. TwinSpires, the official wagering site of the Kentucky Derby, going to be prominent with all the different promotions. But give me a little sneak peek. What can listeners look forward to at TwinSpires.com when they start getting ready for the Kentucky Derby?
Yeah, I just think the content leading in and just the overall coverage, I think the most important thing to emphasize, in answering your question, is the Derby Morning Work Show, which we've really taken to a new level over the course of the last few years. And the first one of those is Monday, April 24th, 11 straight days through Thurby, which is May the 4th, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time. A lot of different ways you can find it: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Scott Shapiro, myself, Caitlin Free, Brandon Staubel, Travis Stone will make some appearances. James Scully, hoping Rosie Napravnik returns. She's been, really good on the show the last few years with the insight that she can provide, having ridden in the Derby and winning 2 Oaks, etc. But you get to see the designated training time for these horses, whether it's gallops or actual workouts, and get all the analysis. If you're kind of up to speed on the Derby and the Oaks and you need to get even more up to speed, watching the show is going to turn you into an expert in the course of 11 days. So love doing it. It's all part of the lead up to the Derby for me, and hope you tune in.
Yeah, make sure you tune into that, and it's going to be a wonderful week in Louisville, and Joe and the team do a fantastic job. Joe, you do a great job here too, buddy, and good luck with those 3 selections. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds good, Mike. Good luck out there, everybody.
All right, that TwinSpires triple play. Joe Kristufek, head over to TwinSpires.com to make your wagers on those 3 races and many, many more. Just make sure you're doing it at TwinSpires.com. When I come back, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History, and Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin will be with me at 10:30 Eastern for I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Racing fans, Santa Anita Park would like to thank all of our fans, both on track and off, for their tremendous support throughout our classic meet, which concluded this past Sunday, April 9th. And we look forward to seeing you all back with us on Friday, April 21st for the beginning of our all-new Hollywood meet, which will run through Sunday, June 18th. We will again be racing on a Friday through Sunday schedule, with Memorial Day weekend the lone exception at the end of May. Additionally, we'll again have free parking and admission, as well as $3 beers and $5 margaritas on all Fridays throughout the Hollywood meet, with first post time at 1 o'clock. And fans, it's not too early to make plans to join us on Kentucky Derby Day, Saturday, May 6th. Check our website, santaanita.com, for dining and seating opportunities. Santa Anita will be open for simulcast wagering this Thursday, April 20th, beginning at 10 a.m. Parking and admission are free. Santa Anita, it's the great race place.
Here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, what would be a common misunderstanding between an insured and the insurance company?
Mike, one issue is a policy condition that requires notification when an insured animal becomes sick or injured.
Do you mean in life-threatening situations?
Not just then, but if a veterinarian is called in for treatment other than routine care. Take, for example, if a yearling colt gets his foreleg caught in a fence and tears the skin. The coat is stitched up and everything seems fine, but later the coat develops a systemic infection. Then there is a serious situation that the company knows nothing about.
So the company needs to know, even if it's not a life-threatening situation.
That's right. It's a policy condition. The company has a stake in the health of the animal because of the existing insurance policy. The company might want to have its own vet examine the horse. In most cases, though, just a call or email is all that is needed.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Nicholson Insurance Agency at 859-224-7080. You gotta know Joe.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. How can a horse distinguish himself with only one stakes win for his entire career? He can if his name was Angle Light. Foaled on April 18, 1970 in Kentucky, Angle Light was a bay colt by Belmont and Travers Stakes winner Quadrangle out of Pilot Light, an undistinguished mare which won just 3 times in 27 starts and earned less than $10,000. Bred by Runnymede Farm and Howard Noonan, Angle Light sold for $15,000 at the 1971 Keeneland Summer Yearling Sale to Toronto industrialist Ed Whitaker. Proud of his native country and always seeking to help the careers of Canadian trainers and jockeys, Whitaker sent Angle Light to former Montreal jockey Lucien Laurin for training. As the 1972 racing season hit full stride, it became evident that Angle Light was a promising 2-year-old, but he was not the best juvenile in Laurin's barn. That honor belonged to Secretariat, a colt many believed not only to be the best in Laurin's shed row, but also in North America. Still, there was enough buzz on the backstretch about Angle Light that when he made his career debut at Belmont Park, Tom Cavanaugh of the New York Daily News made him his spot play of the day. New York handicapper Joe Gilardi agreed, saying, "My sources tell me he's a tiger." With Canadian jockey Ron Turcotte aboard, Angle Light won his debut and defeated future graded stakes winners Sham and Timeless Moment. He returned 11 days later and added a win in Allowance Company, again with Turcotte in the irons. But Turcotte would soon abandon Angle Light for Secretariat. Rudy Turcotte, Ron's brother, would become Angle Light's jockey. And Rudy would later remark that he often believed he and Angle Light were in great position, until he looked over his shoulder and saw his brother Ron coming with Secretariat. Laurin himself, as the trainer of both colts, noted that Angle Light had good speed breaking from the gate, while Secretariat never started running until he reached the half-mile pole. He added that Angle Light was the better horse during morning workouts, and Ron Turcotte agreed, saying, "It's only when you put the blinkers on Secretariat that he knows it's for real. He knows the difference between the morning and the afternoon." The 1972 campaign closed with Secretariat and Angle Light running 1-2 in the Garden State Stakes in New Jersey, with Secretariat soon thereafter named Champion Juvenile Colt and Horse of the Year. But Angle Light would exact a small measure of revenge the following spring. On April 21st, 1973, the Grade 1 Wood Memorial at Aqueduct brought the showdown which so many had been anticipating. Sham, who had risen to be the best 3-year-old in the West, had shipped from California to New York to face Secretariat, the champ from the East. But at the end of the day, both horses lost to Angle Light. But how? Some said the ship across the country had taken a toll on Sham. Others pointed to the fact Secretariat, it was soon discovered, had an abscess inside his lip and that the condition had been aggravated when the bit was placed in his mouth. But in reality, jockey Jacinto Vasquez, left on his own by Lauren to improvise a strategy, had executed a brilliant game plan with Angle Light. He controlled the pace, making it difficult for Secretariat to close ground, while at the same time forcing Sham to run just hard enough that Sham was just tired enough that Angle Light was able to beat the California Invader by a head on the wire. Secretariat finished third. Triple Crown glory, of course, awaited Secretariat later that spring, and his battles with Sham became legendary. Angle Light, by comparison, finished far behind both horses in the Kentucky Derby, skipped the Preakness altogether, and ran off the board in allowance company on the Belmont Stakes undercard. At the end of the year, on November 6th, Angle Light made the final start of his career. Reunited with Ron Turcotte and now in the barn of trainer T.J. Kelly, he finished runner-up in allowance company at Aqueduct. That same day, Secretariat was paraded before the fans as he prepared to leave the racetrack once and for all to head for stallion duty in Paris, Kentucky. Angle Light went to stud in Kentucky as well, in fact, standing just down the road from Secretariat at Runnymede Farm, the same farm where he had grown up. He would enjoy modest success, siring 13 stakes winners from 14 crops. Whitaker was once asked if he was disappointed that Angle Light was not able to back up his Wood Memorial victory with a win in the Kentucky Derby. Whitaker replied, "I never said this horse was in the same league as Secretariat." To be fair, hardly any horse in the 3-year-old crop of 1973 was in the same league as Secretariat. But Angle Light has forever earned his place in history as the horse which handed Secretariat a surprising loss just prior to the Triple Crown. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Scholarships are available. Visit rtip.arizona.edu.
It's that time of year again. The Keeneland Spring Meet is back. Make sure to pre-purchase tickets to join your friends and family for world-class racing at Keeneland. Gates open at 11. First post at 1 o'clock. Visit Keeneland.com for a full schedule of races and events. And be sure to download the Keeneland Race Day app before you go. See you there.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
The Run Happies are running, the Run Happies are selling, the Run Happies are winning. Eclipse champion Run Happy is joining a new dimension with winners on turf, dirt, and all weather. A record-breaking sprint champion, Run Happy is also starring winners at all distances, from 7 furlongs to 1.25 miles. A sire whose runners can carry his speed over all distances and all surfaces. Run Happy, price for value, and standing strong at Claiborne Farm.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Looking to gain on the far outside as they straighten away as Instant Coffee has the black cap. In the meantime, it's still Kingsbarns. Kingsbarns 1 furlong to go, and Kingsbarns looking to finish them off in the Louisiana Derby. And Kingsbarns has opened up 5 lengths now on Disarm, who's gained second from Jace's Road, Chopper's Revenge. Instant Coffee is next, but it's Kingsbarns and Flavian Pratt. Kingsbarns undefeated, 3 for 3. Kingsbarns won by 4 from Disarm. Jace's Road was next, then Sun Thunder, Chopper's Revenge, Instant Coffee, and Tapit's Conquest. Kingsbarns goes wire to wire.
John Dooley with the call of the Louisiana Derby. Disarm ran very well to be second behind Kingsbarns, but that effort wasn't enough to cement his spot in the field for this year's Kentucky Derby, nor was Mandarin Heroes' second place effort in the Santa Anita Derby. Is it time to overhaul the entire Derby point system? Plus, no horse with 40 points or more has ever been excluded from the Kentucky Derby since the system was introduced in 2013. We'll tell you if that streak is going to continue this year. And should anybody care if Turf Paradise is sold and developed later this summer? We're going to talk about those topics and much, much more on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, and it's all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, and it all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
All right, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, plenty of things to get to on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. We're going to begin with the first topic, which is, as of this moment, the horses who finished second in 2 giant Kentucky Derby points races are not among the 20-horse field. You have the Santa Anita Derby runner-up, Mandarin Hero, who is currently in 24th place, and Disarm, who finished second in the Louisiana Derby in 26th. So I'll ask you, is it time for another overhaul of the road to the Kentucky Derby point system? And Dale, you're on the outside looking in right now with Cyclone Mischief. Let me start with you. Is it time to overhaul the entire system?
Well, I've never been a fan of the system. I had no problem with the old system. Whoever got the most graded money ended up in the race. But with that being said, if you're just second in one prep, should you have preference over a horse that ran a campaign and created some points along the way? I don't know. It's a catch-22. I don't think that if you look at ever since the point system came about, it probably was going to be about the same, whether it was the old system or points. Maybe one horse a year has changed. It's different. But I think they should keep looking at it and keep updating
it. With Disarm, he has 40 points. I mean, you look at some of the horses in Louisiana Derby that finished behind him, like Sun Thunder, Jace's Road, they're already in the Derby. So they finished behind him in that because they had gotten points early on. You know, this was the only Disarm got the 20 points. He was second to the
in Louisiana Derby.
Kingsbarn in the Louisiana Derby. And, you know, and Mandarin Hero, that was his only start in a Derby prep race, and he got the 40 points. I don't think you have to revamp the system. And like Dale, I don't know if I'm wild about the way they do it, but the way they do it, I mean, maybe some of these horsemen that are, Mandarin Hero, his connections, they put all the eggs in the one basket. He had to win the Santa Anita Derby to get in. He didn't win it. He got 40 points, and he's on the outside looking in. Maybe they should have run a couple more other prep races to get more points. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, one thing that interests me in the point system is field size. I mean, it doesn't seem right that you could go run in California a 5-horse field like the Bob Lewis and pick up points when you're running in the Bluegrass in a 14-horse field, which is a lot more difficult to get the points. So maybe those points should be more valuable. But I don't know. There's a lot of things they can look at and keep tweaking the system as they go.
But what can they really do if, like in California with those short fields? What can be done to maybe make, like you say, maybe make those races less points if there's not as many horses that are entered? You get a bulky field.
That's way above my pay grade, but it always irks me to see those short fields pick up points, and then you go beat your head against the wall against the champion 2-year-old in Gulfstream in a 12-horse field or the 14-horse field at Keeneland and try to get points.
Yeah, well, I think then you have to tweak the how much these races are worth points-wise. Go by what the field size goes by.
I would agree. You could put a caveat in, make them worth so many points, and if they're below the number of horses, they're worth less points.
And you can change them every year.
Exactly.
It's interesting. Brad Cox came out last week and was quoted and said that he was told the changes to this year's Derby point system, paying back to 5th position and to tweaking the way that the points are going to be distributed. He said that he was told it was done to get people to run more, but he feels like it's had the opposite effect, and people are waiting and trying to get in at the end, like we just talked about. Dale, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, the whole point system is heavily weighted in the last 2 rounds. You don't get to 50 points and 100 points until the last 2 rounds. In history, until this year, hitting the board in one of those was usually enough, and you could sit back and wait. I don't know. Maybe people wake up and realize now that there are more points out there, and that you are going to have to get a little more aggressive early.
All right, well, here's
I
the
don't think
other
a lot
part.
of people probably didn't even realize it this year.
Here's the other part of the whole equation that I'm having a hard time getting my head wrapped around. You have Continuar, who accepted an invite from Churchill Downs through the Japanese road to the Kentucky Derby. He is one of 2 Japanese entrants currently slated to run in the Kentucky Derby. However, his 40 total points that he's earned are less than several horses behind him who still find themselves on the outside looking in. So are you guys okay with Continuar essentially getting an automatic bid into the field, even though his point total doesn't stack up? And Dale, I'll come to you again first, considering the fact you're one of those guys that's sitting there behind Continuar.
Yeah, and it irks me a little bit, but I understand the thought process behind it. Thought process is they want to make it a world event. They want to have the Asian money bet into the pools, and it has done that. It's making it grow. The Derby over in Japan. Well, I understand all that. I think where they got it messed up this year is they weren't expecting a Japanese horse to go to Dubai and win the race that wasn't the horse that got the automatic bid, and they end up with 2 of them in the race. Overall, it does get under your skin a little bit when you got more points and you're sitting on the outside. And then if you look at the points list on the board, you got to read the fine print to realize we're 22 and not 21.
I think that the Japanese thing, I get it why they want to make it a world thing, but if you're going to get into the Kentucky Derby, I think you should have to play by the same rules as everybody else. You have a horse in Japan wants to have a chance to run the Kentucky Derby, come over to the U.S. and run in the races, the points races that we have designated for entry into the Kentucky Derby. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that a horse from Japan is getting into the race while there's other horses with more points behind him. A couple years back when Master Fencer got in, he was the 4th horse in line from Japan to get the invite because the other 3 weren't nominated. And he only had, I think, 19 points. And that's just crazy. You have to have horses that have the points to get in. It's almost like it's a different set of rules for the Japanese horses, and it is. I guess it is. They don't have to compete in the prep races here to accrue the points. And if you don't accrue the points and to be in the top 20, I say you do not get in. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, well, he earned 10 points on one of the road to the Kentucky Derby races in Japan, the Cattleya Stakes, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He won that, gets 10 points there. Then he finishes third in the UAE Derby, gets another 30 points. So he's sitting there at 40 points. I have no issue with the fact that he's earned points in the designated races, but my problem is, should he take he basically gets an automatic bid by running in the Japan road to the Kentucky Derby. Should he take the place of somebody like Dale's horse in Cyclone Mischief, who's sitting there with 45 points? Should he take the place of that horse? It doesn't make sense to me.
No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't get that. I mean, you should give Dale's horse credit. He ran in all the races in Florida. Okay, then you get extra points for that then. Why don't you do that? I just don't think it's right that you have the horse over in Japan who can just basically waltz right into the Derby field, and there's horses behind him that don't get in. It's not fair.
Yeah, and Skinner is the one, by the way, at this moment who is on the outside looking in behind the Japanese horse because of the fact that he's sitting in 21st position. Dale, you're in 22nd with Cyclone Mischief, but Skinner is in 21st behind Continuar right now. So if it wasn't for the automatic bid, Skinner's in the field. You're sitting one out with Cyclone Mischief at 21.
Correct.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I think that it's fine.
Well, isn't there? We keep talking about the Japanese, but there's an automatic entry, isn't there, for Europe too?
Yes, but they are not accepting this year.
Yeah, but the principle is still the same. They're not accepting and coming, but should that be? If we're going to take one away, you got to take them both away.
You do. Yeah, you do. You do. I have no problem with an invite, but put that horse in line where he belongs. He should be sitting on the outside looking in right now like everybody else sitting there with 40 points. He shouldn't be sitting there at number 20 automatically in the field just because he ran in the Japan road to the Kentucky Derby. That's my thought on it. I think you guys probably agree. We'll see. It's all part of the tweaks that are going to have to be made to this point system to make it fair for everybody. All right. I know our friend Nick Zito would have an opinion on this, but he's not here. But every week we get a chance to welcome him to the program via I Ask, They Answers, right or wrong. So, guys, let's kick it off here. 2 topics today. Since the road to the Kentucky Derby point system was first introduced in 2013, you haven't had a horse with 40 points or more ever excluded from the race. So if I were to say that streak is going to come to an end this year, Timmy, would I be right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
I think you're definitely right on that. Right now, there has to be 2 horses that defect in order for Skinner and Dale's Cyclone to get in. Historically, 40 points has always gotten in. You look back to last year, the cutoff was 30. A couple years ago, Brooklyn Strong got in with 10. So I think this year you're going to have a horse that accumulated 40 points or more that is not getting it.
Dale, right or wrong?
I think Tim's right, too. I want to agree with Tim on this issue. That 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, you have Major Dude, Mandarin Hero, who we just talked about, King Russell, and Disarm, who, by the way, could add to his total and could get into the Kentucky Derby with a good effort in the Lexington Stakes later today. Those are the 4 horses currently, as we're talking about this, with 40 points to their credit. It's never happened that one of those horses has never gotten in. You guys think that this is the year one of those horses gets left out?
Absolutely, and it's unfortunate.
Yes, it is. Very unfortunate. It's a bad situation to be in.
You know, and it doesn't matter how we set up the point system, whatever tweaks we make, or if there's an overhaul like we talked about earlier, whatever way you do it, there's going to be horses on the bubble, just like there are for NCAA basketball teams trying to get into the tournament. There's always going to be bubble teams. We're always going to have a debate, but there has to be a way to make things fair across the board, right?
I agree. And I think this whole point system was put in place. It wasn't to make it more fair for the horses. It was to give Churchill Downs more control and power over other racetracks.
And they've certainly done that.
Yes, they have. They'll throw their power around.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's number one. Number two, trainer Ron Fauché celebrated his third consecutive Fairgrounds training title a few weeks ago. Then he immediately announced his retirement from training, which shocked the racing world. Ron talked about his struggles to make money, even with the large number of wins he accumulated each year. In early March, he had Bill Sparr step away from training out on the West Coast, citing quote-unquote overregulation as his primary reason. So, guys, if I were to say that this is just the tip of the iceberg and it will soon be impossible to make a good living training racehorses, Dale Romans, would I be right or wrong?
What do you think?
You're
Right or
100% right. You can go back further than that to Karen McLaughlin, one of the most successful trainers in the 21st century, stepping away. People don't understand the number of moving parts and the tight margins we work off of. And it's an almost impossible game to make any money anymore. And they just keep on. The more they regulate, the more expensive it is, and you can't charge enough to even break even if you're not winning.
And I think that's the thing, Dale. Ron Fauché was winning. He wins his third consecutive Fairgrounds training title. He was winning a lot of races every year, and he still couldn't make a go of it. And then he cited HISA getting involved, and he said, if this all comes to fruition, there are going to be additional expenses that trainers are going to face. And he looked at the future and said, you know what, I can't make it happen.
You just can't keep adding on to this day rate. You're right. It's just ridiculous. And the way we're regulated now it's just out of control.
What's the solution?
You know what? I try to think about it every day because I can see myself being one of them in the near future. I can't come up with a solution. I don't know what the right answer is. It's not just horse racing, though. It's the way of doing business in the United States has gotten so out of control. Everything is so overregulated.
Timmy, is that right or wrong?
Changes I've just seen in my life have been immense, none of them for the positive, for anybody.
Timmy, right or wrong?
I've seen trainers come in and they, after some years, they say, I just can't do this anymore because you don't make any money, and you got, all these trainers, they have to pay their staff, and if you're not winning, in the even if you are winning, it's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, obviously, I'm not a trainer. I've just seen it from the outside, but being in the backstretch, and I see how hard all these men and women work at their craft, and when you don't have success on a consistent basis, you're going to have trouble. And for someone that's winning and they got to get out, that's kind of a scary thing in this business. And I don't know what the answer is, but there just seems like there's so many of the super trainers are the ones that are making all the money, and everybody else is just struggling to get by.
I'm not sure they're making a lot of money.
Yeah, the expenses are so high, and you can only push owners so far in terms of your day rate and the expenses that you have to incur. But you've got to find a way to balance it all out. And for Ron Fauché, it just wasn't working. He steps away, and we'll see what the future holds for many trainers in this sport going forward. Okay, that's right or wrong. We'll do it again next week. Next topic before we get to a brand new segment, which I'm going to introduce this week for you guys. News came out this past week that Turf Paradise in Phoenix, Arizona is likely to be sold to a real estate and investment firm later this summer. Turf Paradise is never going to be mistaken for Churchill Downs or Santa Anita or Belmont Park, especially in the grand history of the sport. So if the sale comes to fruition, guys, and Timmy, I'll come to you first, should people even care?
People that follow horse racing should care. You don't want to see any racetrack go belly up. And I believe they're going to race this year into next year. I mean, they're a track that runs winter into spring, and they've had their problems out there. That's true, but it's a signal that goes out where people can bet it. And I think that the fact that it's a track that's been around since 1956, you never want to see a track go away. Like it was sad when Arlington Park went away. It was sad when Hialeah went away. I just don't want to see any track go away. But if it's not making the owners money, what else can you do? And I've never been there, but I've heard stories about, it's kind of falling apart and things are not going great out there. But I would feel bad most of all for the horsemen because they have to go somewhere else. And I hope that it does get to keep going for a couple more years and a miracle happens and racing continues to be there, but I'm not sure that'll be the case.
Yeah, I think everybody should be concerned. I mean, it's a small track, but it's an iconic little racetrack. I've always enjoyed it. I've never been there, but if they're going to close, I'm going to make sure I make a trip because I've always watched it from afar. But we should be concerned. We should be concerned that Hialeah's not running. We should be concerned that they closed Calder, that Arlington Park is closed, that Hollywood Park is closed. Santa Anita is worth twice as much for a real estate development than it is for a racetrack. So is Gulfstream Park and Aqueduct's going. When they finish Belmont Park, won't be any more Aqueduct. There's been too much contraction, and it's going a lot faster than people predicted.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well for the future of the game. That you're looking at a handful of tracks in major tracks in various states, and that's where this is trending right now, and a lot of the smaller tracks will be gone. So it sounds like both of you agree that, you should care about what's happening with Turf Paradise out in Arizona. All right, one other topic to get to before our final West Point of the week. Guys, we're down to about the final 5 minutes in the program. This is a new edition, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun every week. It's called Who You Got, and I'm going to present you guys with two horses competing against each other in designated races later today, and you just tell me who you got and why you like that horse. So here we go. Number 1, In Italian or With the Moonlight, the two favorites in Keeneland's Jenny Wiley later today. Timmy, who you got?
I got In Italian.
Dale?
Chad Brown has won this race not five straight times. He's won it 5 times. He's going for number 6. I think In Italian is the horse that's going to give him number 6. 5 wins and 9 career starts. Very, very classy 5-year-old mare.
Dale, you going against Chad Brown or Charlie Appleby?
I'm going with Charlie Appleby. Appleby seems to come over here and win everything, and I'm going with Appleby.
All right, With the Moonlight for Dale, In Italian for Tim. How about Louisiana Derby runner-up Disarm or recent maiden winner First Mission in the Lexington Stakes later today? Timmy, who you got?
I'm taking First Mission, Brad Cox. Only 2 starts, broke his maiden, and I'm not really impressed with Disarm.
You know what? I'm going to have to go with Timmy on this one because I need Disarm not to get any points. Don't need another one jumping me in the point system.
Well played, Dale Romans. All right, one more. Secret Oath or Clairiere in today's Apple Blossom at Oaklawn. Timmy, who you got?
I have to take Secret Oath because Secret Oath is now in my stable. It lost in the fog, and I need to get some points to catch up to Mr. Romans. And Clairiere Secret Oath already beat Clairiere in the Azari in their first start, both of them for this year. I think Secret Oath keeps it going for the coach.
Yeah, I'll go Secret Oath too, simply because I will never go against Wayne. If he likes her, I like her.
All right, there you go. We'll do it with a few more races next week here. Who you got? A brand new segment on I Ask, They Answer. Quick update on the showdown. Last week, Dale padded his lead. 31-20 is what the score stands right now. Dale's verifying, finishing second in the Bluegrass. Timmy had a shot with Wonder Wheel, but she was disappointing in the Ashland. So Dale holds a 31-20 lead coming into this week. And you can go to horseracingradio.net to see the latest score updates every single week. All right, it is time now to wrap up the show with our West Point of the Week, presented by West Point Thoroughbreds, where you can experience the lifestyle of thoroughbred racehorse ownership with the gold standard in racing partnerships. That's been happening for over 30 years. It is West Point Thoroughbreds. And here's something that's even better. Text HORSE to 66866, and you'll learn about ownership from the best. West Point Thoroughbreds. That's HORSE to 66866. Message and data rates may apply. All right, one parting shot for each of you. Timmy, kick it off first. What is your West Point of the Week?
It has been in the high 80s all week in the capital region in New York, which means that summer is right around the corner. And on Monday, the Oklahoma training track opens its doors for horsemen for the first time this year, which is a sure sign that summer racing is right around the corner.
Dale?
I'm getting off the horse racing topic for a second, and I'm going to get a little political and maybe make people mad. But I would like for someone out there to do the research and let me know how many people have ever protected themselves, their family, or their property with an assault rifle. I got no problem with anybody having a hunting gun, going hunting every week. I won't kill an animal, but I'll eat it if you do. I don't mind someone having their 6-gun strapped to their side if they feel like they need that to protect them. But someone's got to explain to me why any individual needs an assault rifle. And I just want to say God bless my city of Louisville and all the people affected this week by the senseless violence.
Yep, amen. Well said, Dale Romans. That was a very difficult week for everybody in Louisville. It continues. Our thoughts and our prayers are certainly with everyone in the Derby City. All right, guys, I appreciate it. We'll do it all over again next week. I Ask, They Answer, presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. Appreciate it, guys. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, Mike.
Talk to you.
All right, if you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, email it to me, mike@horseracingradio.net, and I'll do my best to work it in for you in the weeks ahead. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony. Hey, Matthew. There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no. So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that catch-up.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Hey, this is Bobby Neuman. Join Jude Feld and me for our Derby Countdown shows Tuesday through Thursday of Kentucky Derby Week. We'll be broadcasting live from Churchill Downs as we speak with jockeys, trainers, owners, and handicappers, as well as bring you up-to-the-minute news leading up to Kentucky Derby 149. The Derby Countdown shows presented by Hillendale at Alapa, Tuesday through Thursday of Derby Week, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Listen live on Sirius 218, XM 202, or online at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, remember, you can follow that road to the Kentucky Derby, which is fast coming to an end, on bloodhorse.com and Blood Horse Daily. You can get the latest Racing, breeding, sales, industry news and analysis, plus entries, results, race replay videos, and much more, all at your fingertips with the Blood Horse Daily app for your phone, and it is updated throughout the day. Go to bloodhorse.com/daily to download the app or to sign up now. Yeah, the road to the Derby coming to a conclusion later today with the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland, and we'll see if we have another Kentucky Derby representative after that race later today. The horse that can find his way into the Kentucky Derby is Disarm, who currently sits at 26 in the point standings. He has 40 points to his credit. If he has a good showing today in the Lexington Stakes, there's a good chance, well, he'll definitely move into the top 20, but a good chance that his connections decide, let's do it, let's go for it, 3 weeks up the road in Louisville, and we'll see if the Louisiana Derby runner-up can find his way in. A lot of good debate there with Dale and Tim in the previous segment, talking about the point system, talking about the Japanese road to the Kentucky Derby. You can go back and listen to a podcast of the entire show at horseracingradio.net. My thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible here this morning, including Dale and Tim and Kurt Becker and Joe Kristufek with the TwinSpires Triple Play. If you missed any portion, check out the podcast and continue listening to all of our shows via podcast at horseracingradio.net and every major podcast platform. Now for my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio. For Chauncey handling our social media, I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. Go Steelers.